I'd like to call the regular February 12th board meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Kelly.
Ms. Flynn?
Delayed.
Ms. Hewitt? Here. Ms. Patchen?
Excused.
Mr. Rakowski?
Here.
Mr. Singh?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Present.
Mr. Zob?
Here.
Ms. Gadsden?
Excused.
Mr. Wade?
Here. Fire, it's Matt.
Emergency exit start at the back of the LGI.
I need a motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual.
Motion to adjourn executive session to review the employment history of particular individuals.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6. All right, we will return at 7:30 sharp.
Okay.
Find yourself. Good luck.
Tonight, the first workshop is going to be the athletic budget presentation by Mr. Giametta.
Thank you for having me, everybody. We have some nice things I'd like to show you here before we get into the budget piece. I thought I should give you an update so far in the year. So just a couple quick mentions. Our boys varsity soccer team ended up being sectional semifinalists, and we had a couple league champions in our varsity boys and varsity girls. You can see that we had multiple scholar teams, which mean that the team needed to maintain an average of 90 or above as per New York State standards, and we had 5 teams that were able to do this. We have a player, Mr. Lenny Torres, who was a preseason first-team All-American by Collegiate Baseball newspaper, and he also signed a national letter of intent to St. John's University. We were able to have a nice ceremony for him here during the signing. In addition, we have some all-section athletes. Our girls' soccer was Rihanna Cater, Megan Meweiss, and Anna Menente. For football, we had Jaden Navarro. For boys' soccer, Devin Lamb, Matt Wyant, Mason Birch, and John Mesnick. And we weren't able to receive the winner, all-section athletes or all league, because our winner is still in progress right now. One extra thing that we had occur was Noah Curry, who happens to be present tonight, was able to, sorry to embarrass him, and I asked, and we're all fine. So we asked Noah, and he had an interview with CNN Positive Athlete, which I'd like to show the board.
Goodness knows we can all use some positive inspiration. I want to introduce you to today's HLN Positive Athlete. HLN sports contributor and 2-time Super Bowl champ Hines Ward has now the story of a young cancer survivor who has found a way to help other kiddos who are still in the fight.
Today's Positive Athlete is Noah Corey from Beacon, New York. Now, Noah is a cross-country runner who started a 5K race to help those fighting a disease that hits close to home.
When Noah was 18 months old, we noticed that he had, an extended stomach and he was having trouble walking. So we took him to our pediatrician, and within an hour, there was an ambulance at the doctor's office sending us to Albany Medical Center, where right away they determined that he did have stage 4 neuroblastoma.
My mom said one of the doctors up there didn't really expect me to last long.
He went through major surgeries to do tumor removal. He also had a bone marrow transplant. Given the prognosis they gave us and where he's at now, we're all very amazed what happened.
Cross country is the ideal sport for him because cross country, in my view, is it's the hardest sport, and that's kind of what you would expect Noah to gravitate to. He doesn't take the easy way out in anything.
Come on, Noah, come on! He's done so many other fundraisers, but it was probably last winter time where he said he would like to do something as far as a walk or run to help children with cancer.
I came up with a name, which was Never Say No 5K, and that's because of the Rod McElroy Foundation's motto is Never Say No to a Child in Need. The Rod McElroy Foundation is a children's cancer foundation that was started when Rod McElroy passed away. He was diagnosed with stage 4 bone cancer.
We were really saying if we could get 75 runners, that's going to be great for our first time. 100 runners would be wonderful. So when we're able to break that 100 mark and get to 132, and of course next year his goal is to double that.
For the 5K, we raised just over $2,000, which was just unbelievable. It was really nice to watch all those people out there.
The money goes to families who are in desperate need of just getting by, paying for their bills at home that they can't manage to pay right now because they're helping their child. But it's also to get the word out on childhood cancer.
As a kid, you see everyone that helped you. Like, you hear about all the people that raised money for you when you were going through stuff and were there for help you. So now it's like, what can I do to give back to everyone?
I think of Noah as somebody who's probably on pace to try to do more in 20 years of life than most people get done in 80 years of life.
Noah's talents don't stop there, though. Get this, he even put together his own 30-minute documentary about the support system around children as they go through cancer treatments.
Thanks, Hines. Noah is an incredible kid. If you'd like to nominate a positive athlete in your community, you can do so at cnn.com/positive.
So I think it goes without saying that these are the type of athletes that we'd like to attract here at Beacon, and having Noah as a representative on the board, it's just a wonderful thing, and all the accomplishments he was able to make. So thank you, Noah, for representing our school in this way. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just a couple other updates. Our varsity boys soccer team, who was the section semifinalists, we also have a picture of the crowd here. This was at the Our Lady of Lourdes game. We are trying to promote more of our students to come out to our games to give support to our community. And some other updates, just hot off the press here, boys varsity basketball. We will be hosting an out-bracket game this Wednesday at 4:30, home versus Yonkers. Our JV boys basketball team has actually now won 33 games in a row. I just got word that they just won against Hen Hud down there while we were on break. Our girls varsity basketball team will be playing an out-bracket game at Walter Panis this Wednesday. Wrestling, we had two athletes, Durrani Haynes and Joe Maldonado. They have qualified to place in the section championship. Our girls bowling team ended up being undefeated this season, and we have a couple all-star team members here, Selena Bertruso and Jenna Mafia. And finally, winter track. They are attending the Armory as we speak for the Class B section championship. We have multiple athletes who are there, and hopefully we get some word soon that we have some qualifiers. So moving on, what I've done here is I've broken down the amount of sports that we are offering in this calendar year. It's broken down by fall, winter, and spring. For fall, we have offered 8 boys sports and 12 girls sports for a total of 20. You see that we had 181 boy athletes and 170 girls. For winter, we were able to offer 9 boys sports and 9 girls sports. For a total of 18, and we were able to have 134 boys and 96 girls. And for this upcoming spring, we will be offering 7 boys sports and 8 girls sports, and numbers are to be determined for obvious reasons. Total participation that we have. So the total boys participation to date is 315, while the total participation rate for girls is 266. One of the goals that you'll see further down the slides is to increase these participation rates for both the boys and the girls. And you can feel free to stop and ask questions. I don't know if that's allowed, but I welcome it as we go through the slides.
How are you increasing what's the plan? Well, you can answer at the end.
I don't want to get ahead. I'm just a very big believer of organization within the sports and offering year-long progress in these sports, and you'll see that part of our workout program to make it year-long should draw more athletes to our program.
Is there any kind of a benchmark that the athletic directors use across the districts of percentage of eligible students that actually play?
I have not seen the benchmarks, not to say that they're not in existence, but it's definitely something I'm going to be looking into. I feel like we should have a higher draw of athletes for all of our programs. Just looking at the enrollment we had, such as our varsity football, which I believe ended up being around 26. That is low compared to other regions. So by looking at those types of numbers, I think we can get a nice benchmark and have some nice goals to hit.
Good, thank you.
So things that we're doing this year, my apologies for it being so small. Twitter, we've been tweeting a lot, and our coaches and our phys ed teachers and our health teachers, for that matter, have been very grateful about participating in tweets to get the word out. Seasonal parent information meetings, I really wanted to come in and offer a chance for parents of our student athletes to come into school to ask questions to me or about the code of conduct. And at these meetings, our coaches are there to discuss their tryout procedures. A bona fide athlete verification. Our BHS and RMS guidance departments have worked hand in hand to allow us to provide bona fide athlete verification at the beginning of the season to make sure that everybody was assigned in the appropriate classes. Progress monitoring forms. The coaches are required to do bi-monthly check-ins. So we're not just waiting for the 5-week report or the end of the quarter. We're actually doing these check-ins every 2 weeks to keep an eye on our students. A Google Doc Live master schedule, which I've developed with my secretary, Claire Vigna. With this master schedule, we were able to give everybody in the district access, including administrators, chaperones, building and grounds, so that if there are any last-minute changes, that they can access this document and see it live up to the minute. It's the first document that we change, and it's the first adjustment that we make, so people know if it's set in stone, if it's on this document, it is going to happen. I was also adamant about working well with the bus garage to make sure that our students were being picked up on time and dropped off, for that matter, and I could say that we haven't had one issue regarding transportation, scheduling, officials, chaperones, or field usage up to this point in the year. So I am very proud of that fact that everything was able to come off without a hitch. Our fall alumni tailgate, which we were able to have, and the CSEA was graciously willing to cook lots of hot dogs and hamburgers for everybody, and the goal is to try to draw some of our alumni back for our homecoming celebration. We had our Donna Pedersen pink out. Thank you for everyone who attended. I hope that you saw some pictures for it. I have some included here. And then I was able to make contact with a gentleman called Jeremy Latimer, who is a professional major league agent who offers a perfect placement presentation for college athletics recruiting. His goal is to focus on academics and the right choice first before looking at college just for athletics. He challenges both parents and students to think about what they're about to do and the commitment they're about to make. We had him scheduled for this Thursday. However, he's dealing with some agency things in the major leagues, so we did have to push it back, and I decided to do it in October. This is going to be a great opportunity for parents and students to come in to get a head start on the college process. And then we are going to be having a cumulative end-of-the-year athletics award night here at BHS Auditorium. I invite everybody to attend. This is where we plan on making multiple presentations to our student athletes throughout the course of the year. This is basically the community and communication and community engagement interactions that we've had. I want to move into the phys ed and health. What we've done this year, and a big, most important thing I thought, was to do curriculum mapping for our PE department, K through 12, to see exactly what's happening at each of the grade levels so we can make adjustments down the road and ensure that we're not having overlapping in curriculums. We were able to have an Elks Club hoop shoot. Carl Oken and the Beacon Elks Club, we invited them to sanction their Elks Club hoop shoot through our phys ed classes, and we were able to send participants from each of the elementary schools and the middle schools to a wonderful night that we had for participants to compete in this event. We're having multiple BHS health curriculum revisions, which are focused more on project-based and student-driven activities. This is being led by Diane Tanzi up here at the high school. And that being said, we're going to be offering a seminar for parents and students called Decisions Determine Destiny, a presentation by the Drug Crisis in Our Backyard for BHS students and parents. We'll be offering this on February 28th at 6 p.m. in the BHS LGI. We thought that it would be a great way to start to educate many people, not only us, but parents, about what's going on in society lately. And the last thing that we have here is we are going to be teaming with the New York Jets, even though I'm a big Giants fan, about our Sports Business Day, and it's going to be at MetLife Stadium. And we were able to get a coach bus, and we're going to be offering for our students here at BHS to go down to look at the behind-the-scene financial things that go on with sports. It's offered by MetLife, it's offered by the New York Jets, so we figured we should send a bus down, and it has a lot to do with sport management concepts and not so much athletics. So I thought if I could tie this into the athletic director position, it'd be a nice opportunity for our students. Questions? Yes?
I don't know if it's maybe in the next, I don't know if it's in the next slide or so, but the, when our students qualify for state, we don't sponsor or send them, right? Is that something that's written in law, or that's something that we can visit, or?
It's by the section. The section is able to compensate for these things.
Okay. So the student does go, it just has to be funded by the section, I guess?
Yes, section and us.
Okay.
Anthony, I think you're thinking about nationals. Are you talking about like when Rayvon Gray?
Oh yeah, sorry, nationals. Yeah, I'm thinking about the nationals. So what do we do for that?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I hope to experience that pretty soon. To be honest, I haven't had, as a coach, I haven't experienced that either, but that's definitely something I can look into.
Thank you.
No problem. Just a couple articles. One was the Donna Pedersen pink out that we were able to have, and one of the nice things we were able to do is to have a plaque made in her memory, which is going to be hung up at Rombout Middle School. And on the right, you'll see the participants. These are all students from the Beacon City School District, from all the elementary schools during the Elks Club Hoop Shoot that was on a Friday night down at Rombout. A picture from the pink out. Our girls varsity basketball team was able to play first, followed by our boys. We had two for two on the day. We had two wonderful wins, and we had a lot of happy customers, and you can see our cheer team on the right. So other things we're doing this year, code of conduct revisions we were able to have through a committee, which we're constantly working on. We've been working on since November. We plan on presenting it to Dr. Landell and Ms. Corderoni, and then further on to the policy committee. We have a divider safety net for the soccer field. Safety one is our utmost one of our most utmost things that we're looking for, especially with the fields in such close proximity. So the divider net we thought was going to be a necessary addition. We have new scoreboards that are in the BHS gym. A new batting cage that's going to be utilized by the baseball and softball teams. One of the benefits is that this doesn't require multiple people to take out the batting cage. It's done with a rope and pulley system, so it can be used by both the baseball and softball teams. The installation of the old batting cage, which we're going to be putting by the softball field. We have new lane lines for the pool, a new trainer's golf cart so that he's able to maneuver himself between fields, an athletic storage shed, a new ice machine in the trainer's office, new trainer's tables. We're going to be looking at bullpens and base alignment on the baseball field and foul poles on the softball field. For school spirit.
I have a question,
Yes.
on the CFC. So that does come to the policy committee for review, the code of conduct?
Yeah.
And then does it come up to the
Yes.
full board?
Yeah.
All right, good, thank you.
No problem. So for school spirit, we were able to take a fan bus down to our section semifinal game. We had 54 students from Beacon go down. It was a great time. Despite not getting the win, it was a great morale booster for all our students. We have our senior athlete portraits that we have in the athletic hall. If you haven't seen it, I invite you to take a look. It's coming out really nice, and I'm waiting for the new, the new shipment of the winter athletes to come that we can get up there too. We just have an order of two 50-inch TVs. One's going to be going down by the gym area, and the other is going to be outside the community room, which is giving athletic updates throughout the course of the day. Team portraits, which are going to be done on canvas, hung up. It's a little bit resolution than putting it on the plaques, and it's easy to get them all up. We have one that's currently here for the fall and one down at Rombout in the hallway as you walk through the kiosk. Banner updates in the gym. We haven't had banner updates for about 3 years. So the plan is to get all of the updates done in that time, and I have everything, but it's a matter of taking a banner down, putting it on, putting it up. It's quite a process, so I anticipate having this complete by July. And then updates to the trophy case. One thing that bothered me, we're seeing a lot of the trophies with areas for team rosters to be put in, and there's no team roster there, because if I was on that team, I'd want to see my name there. I don't know. So the plan is to take a lot of these down and bring them to a gentleman who can engrave the team roster in. I've been working with multiple people and looking through old yearbooks to try to get these rosters. And then we have a new BCSD athletics backdrop for college signings and interviews. It's really nice. I've been putting it up at a couple basketball games, and you can take pictures, and I put it in the hall, and the kids take selfies, and I just thought it would be a nice thing when one of our student athletes is being signed by a college. I thought it would be nice to have an appropriate backdrop for them. A quick picture of the athletic hall. And then you can see on the right, there's a picture from the homecoming parade that we were able to have. Thank you for everybody who participated. The new shed there, and there's our trainer, Matt. He's very happy with the new shed. We have his golf cart inside. The divider net, you can see, which separates the field. I've only seen one soccer ball being kicked over that net in the course of the season. I thought that was pretty good. And you can see in the background of that, we were able to hang up the senior portraits up on the net while the kids were playing. Our new trainers tables, our new scoreboard up in the gym. We have another matching one on the other side. Okay, moving on. So things we'd like to do next year. So starting with our phys ed curriculum, the elementary PE minutes, we're working together, and I'm working with Dr. Landell, Ms. Porteroni, Ms. Densero-Rumley to figure out the elementary PE minutes. It's still in process.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in on that.
Sure.
We're hoping to have a new proposal for the elementary specials schedule at the March 12th meeting, the March 12th budget meeting, board meeting. Because it's all interrelated, so it would also include our schedule for how we're going to do art and music at the elementary level and library. So we're looking at possibly switching to a 4-day schedule, a 5-day schedule, or sticking with the 6-day one, but like tweaking it so we can do a better job. So anyway, it's complex because our special education services run off a 6-day schedule right now, so there's a lot of moving pieces with the schedule, so we need a little bit more time to work on that. But the PE minutes is something that we are working hard to address.
You know, I know you'll be talking about that in the future, but what is the biggest challenge you see to be able to achieve the PE minutes? I mean, I don't know if it's just time, or is it location, scheduling, or is it people? What is the...
Well, I mean, you can accomplish the minutes, and John, feel free to jump in on this one. You can accomplish the minutes by, it doesn't have to happen in a PE class. It could also happen in a student's, homeroom class. I think that's harder to do because you could have in a school 20 or 25 teachers all doing it a little bit differently. I talked about this in an earlier board meeting this year. Ithaca used a 4-day model, and PE was 2 of the 4 days, and that got the minutes almost right up to where they needed to be at the state regulatory level. So I think the best way to accomplish it is through changing the schedule. I think the way to do that is to have library media still happen as much as it happens now, but to happen outside of the rotation. So that way you're not taking away from art or music to do it. I think having library media be more flexible is something that I think a lot of people are excited about. They're doing a lot of kind of cool projects that require some flexibility. So that's kind of where we're at. I mean, it would require, if we did it that way, it would require more PE staffing. We're estimating right now, if we did that model, it would require probably close to 2 more PE teachers to get us where we need to be with the minutes. So the reason why we didn't want to just sort of put it into this one is we've got some more work to do on it, but it also has all these other moving pieces like the art, how much music do we want to do. But I think the main thing holding us back is staffing. John's been working on a plan because some of the elementary gyms are kind of small. Like, what would it look like if 2 classes were there? So he's working on some of that stuff with the PE teachers right now too, just to have us prepared for the possibility of doing it. There's some other things we'll be talking about over the next few board meetings that we need to accomplish next year too. So that's our challenge over the next couple of months, is kind of figuring out how to prioritize it all.
And just for clarification, the
Yeah.
PE minutes are an actual requirement, or, because I think last year when we talked about them, it wasn't clear whether or not they are actual requirements or if there was a date that you had to be compliant by.
My understanding is a requirement. With a lot of things with the state, I'm not really sure what the the consequence of not following it is. And like a lot of things with the state, it's an unfunded mandate, but it is a requirement. And some districts meet it by having like the teacher out at recess instead of, we have paraprofessionals out at recess usually. I think the way a lot of districts try to accomplish the minutes, it's kind of shuffling things around a little bit. I would like to do it by increasing the amount of PE that our students have. And that's what we're working on.
And that's definitely the takeaway at the Wellness Committee, where there are parents who are PE teachers in other districts who feel strongly about not fudging it, but rather finding a way to actually increase PE minutes. So that's at least how where we've landed. And we're moving in that direction now.
I mean, John and I have been talking about this probably since September. It's just I think if we felt confident with the budget and and there was no other parts to this whole thing, we'd do it right now. But we've got to kind of make sure the whole rest of the schedule makes sense, not only for the specialist teachers but also special education, and we need to make sure we can afford it too. But it is definitely one of the priorities for sure.
Thank you.
Isn't library media the place where some of the STEM stuff comes from?
Yeah.
So, but you're saying we're not going to sacrifice library media, we're going to try to fit it in somehow?
It's just so if first grade students go to their specials at 9:30 every day, and one day it's PE and one day it's art and one day it's music, library, they would go to library media at like outside of that 9:30 shift, like at some other time, probably more than once a week. It may be sort of a flexible thing, it may be something that they do based on projects they're working on or whatever, but we would want to keep the library staffing the way it is. We think that's great at the elementary level, having one at each building. But it just allows for a little bit more flexibility.
Okay. I look forward to seeing how that looks like.
It's the model that the district I came from that we have used for years, and it works pretty well too. So, yeah, we will be unveiling that in a month for sure, but we're working on it as we speak.
Okay. Next would be splitting the 9th and 10th grade PE to develop 2 new curriculums and revising the current 12th grade curriculum. The way that the high school is right now is that 9th and 10th is grouped together into one class, and 11th and 12th is grouped together in another class. The goal would be to separate 9th and 10th grade to develop the 2 new curriculums at the lower level. The 9th grade curriculum would be a health-related fitness, which focuses on muscular strength, endurance, flexibility, body comp, cardiovascular fitness, and part of this class would also be certifying all of our students in CPR and first aid. 10th grade would be looking for active lifestyles. That's the promotion of an active lifestyle through alternative forms of exercise. It's a little bit different than your normal basketball, volleyball, softball. It would be looking at activities such as European handball, cricket, other things that the students aren't used to playing. And then finally, the 11th and 12th grade would be more of a lifetime fitness, and that would be focused on recreational sports and individualized activities that can promote lifelong fitness. Any questions about the 9th and 10th?
You only need to teach CPR once, I guess, in the 4 years?
No. I mean, if you want to maintain the certification, it's every 2.
Yeah.
But I do feel it's important that all of the students, they can at least, we could teach the curriculum and the course, and whether or not the student chooses to become certified in it, at least we'll have the professionals that can do so.
Thank you.
Moving to 6th grade, the Project Adventure for a half-year curriculum. Collaboration and low-element activities will be the focus. and the inspection of the low element equipment is required. Now, the thing with this is it's easier to start out with the low element activities. These are all the elements that a student can participate with that does not have to be harnessed in. They're not going to be climbing up on the walls as of yet, because we would need the full equipment certified and we would need it replaced, and it's been a number of years since we've done so. Starting out with the low element activities is very beneficial. So the goal here is when the 4 elementary schools come together at Rombout, you start with these collaboration icebreaker type activities. They're to get to know you. They're for the students that don't know each other, that may not know anybody in the class. It's making them comfortable in the school setting through the phys ed class. And that's what a large part of the Project Adventure curriculum does. It's about collaboration and working together. So starting with the half year and including in the low elements would be a great way to get started here in the district. You'll see later down the road the plan for high elements. The swimming initiative, all students 6th through 8th grade will be given 5 to 10 sessions at the BHS pool. I'm working with Principal Brian Soltish right now to develop the schedule for this. We'd like to get them up there. I'm hoping for 10. However, I understand, it's hard taking students out of the class that many times, especially to come across, but the pool is a valuable asset, and the goal is to have every student K through 8 in the pool multiple times throughout the course of the year. I figured 6, 7, 8 is a great way to start. It's right across the street. There's no need for any more transportation. So we're hoping to get this started for next year.
Will they be pulled out? How will it work with the schedule? They'll leave their regular classes, or?
It would basically be 2 class periods that I think we would need to have a proper session, so they would be pulled out of class. However, we're looking at more of a rotating schedule. So if the students were going every Friday, we would rotate 6th, 7th, and 8th, so they'd be pulled out at a certain time, only 1 time per month. And even in that day, we can adjust the time so it's not even the same class. So the goal is to have them pulled out of 1 class every 2 months for this, but we are conscious of that. The 0 period credit recovery, here at the high school, if a student was able or did not pass the class and they need to be put back into phys ed, there's a good chance they might be put into the same section of phys ed. That's occurring, so they will be enrolled in the same class twice in a day. So what we'd like to do is offer the 0 period credit recovery, which would be a class that's happening before school with a different type of curriculum. And it could also be accessed by our BOCES students who leave school early. They could attend this class and be able to meet their PE requirements to do so. This could also be offered for a gym makeup, which will be held every other day for students to come to school to make up missed PE classes. Our summer school, high school PE credit recovery, I feel it's important to offer another alternative during the summer for any students who aren't able to meet the credit requirements. And I'd like to offer one of these sessions sooner than later to allow the students to get caught up if they weren't able to do so throughout the course of the year.
Do we get a lot of students that fail PE?
I think so. In my opinion, yes.
And do we know why, and addressing the actual reasons why they may not be fine?
One of the highest reasons is attendance, and then from there you're looking at changing, and then there are other units, and there's specific units that are happening in high school phys ed classes where we're not getting the participation rate, causing them to fail.
So we're addressing those things too. I don't know how.
Yes.
That's your job, but we're looking at those in order to try to go after those.
With the model that I have laid out here, it should be taking away some of those activities that the students aren't participating in as much, and it's putting in something such as the 9th grade health-related fitness. It's going to change, the structure of phys ed here in the high school, which hopefully results in a better passing rate for our kids. Other things that we'd like to do into athletics, we'd like to add a freshman boys basketball team. We're having a very high amount of numbers that are trying out for basketball teams, and it only makes sense. The more the merrier. To do this, we need an additional basketball hoop installed at Rombout Middle School so that we can have 2 team practices happening at one time. A dance team. We want to extend the dance team and offer it in the fall. Our dance coach, Donna Morrow, did a great job with our kids this winter. We'd also like to expand it to grades 7 through 12, so we'd be offering that both in the fall and in the winter. A girls assistant coach for winter and spring track that can focus on the throwers and shot put would also be working with the boys teams as well. Combining the JV and varsity cheer, we had 18 participants during the fall and 11 participants during the winter. So for now, we can combine that to varsity cheer for the high school. Aquatics a coordinator for the lifeguard and pool coordination of the swim teams, PE classes, and the recreation department. We have a coordinator position that we're not utilizing that could be of great help in the pool area. 2 to 3 low-rise bleachers for the BHS soccer field. The goal is to gradually buy equipment for out back and buy sets of bleachers, so by the time the turf is in, we are good to go and good for full games. And then we would like to resurface and paint the lines on the BHS gym floor. Basically, our gym is broken into 2 for all the team practices, and there are some necessary lines needed. For instance, a 3-point line on the basketball court, which we don't currently have. So the goal would be to resurface these and add these lines, which are essential for practices. Moving on to our weight room, we would like to do some weight room remodeling, some addition of new equipment to begin creating a state-of-the-art weight room for our student athletes. And with that, the conditioning coach job description that we currently have, the weight room accessibility for our athletes throughout the course of the school year, and personalized workouts developed by our conditioning coach on a weekly basis. A goal of mine is to have our students participating in workouts year-round and having this year-round model. And part of our conditioning coach stipend would be to offer access for our student athletes throughout the course of the year, not just during their season, to become stronger and better athletes. And then finally, athletic study halls. We'd like to add in a stipend for athletic study halls. We'd provide 1 hour on a daily basis for each season. So every day, BHS would have a study hall running from 2:30 to 3:30 by a certified teacher, and RMS from 3 to 4 o'clock. An issue that we do see is when a coach who may be in another building is not able to be here at the ending of the school day, that we have that hour of lull, unsupervised time when students could be walking outside of the building in areas. This study hall would allow these coaches to have the students attend the study hall, not only to be supervised, but to keep up with their academics along the way. And finally, school spirit. We have wonderful light poles outside in our parking lot that I think would look great with banners on them, so we're working on getting some things matched up to boost that. Some banners for each of the fields and the tennis courts that we have here. I think it should be recognized that we have a softball field and a baseball field and tennis courts and everything else, so I'm a big fan of the banners that we've been getting. And then a trophy case for the lobby. I thought it was odd that as trophies are coming in from this year, I have no place to present them that can be seen by everybody, so the goal would be to have 1 trophy case in the main lobby that we can give constant updates to, whether it's a 2nd, 3rd, 4th place, 1st place, but that the students here at Beacon High School will be able to see on a daily basis for that school year. And then on to the 5-year plan. So the athletic program development is something that I'm very passionate about. First is to draw more students to participate in our athletic programs. The next is to evaluate and possibly consolidate our current programs, reduce the amount of tardies and absences of our athletes, and then organize off-season workouts through our facility for every program. I'm a big believer of the year-round process for our students, and that doesn't mean that I want students only playing one sport and to be focused on it. I want students to play multiple sports. However, providing the opportunity for our students throughout the course of the year to become stronger athletes, I feel, is the essential part of a good program. Our field marching band and color guard. I'm very big with this, and this is why I'm extending the dance into the fall for the following year to kind of get the ball rolling. I really want to get the marching band, color guard, dance team, the whole Friday Night Lights theme going. I want to draw as many people out to our events as possible because I think it's the best way to bring a community together, so that's a big goal of mine. Competitive cheer. I would love our girls to be able to compete in events that are going on, and I think that would also assist with our Friday Night Lights aspect by making them more competitive. And then for the turf field behind BHS, to add a bathroom and a concession stand separate from the building that's accessible, to add a press box eventually to the field, and to add lights to the field, which would be essential for Friday Night Lights. And then a complete track replacement. We are getting to the point where the track may need to be replaced sometime within the next 5 years. We are doing renovations from the last project the last budget project we were able to do. So we are keeping up with it. So is it entirely safe and is effective? However, we are reaching the date where it may need to be replaced. With that would be pole vault pits and mats and high jump mats and new hurdles for the track as well. For phys ed goals would be to obviously increase the elementary PE minutes, revise to update the elementary PE curriculum as necessary. Project Adventure for the 8th grade. And this would be where the high element course would come in. I made a call to a company who was able to give a quote on inspecting our equipment, and one thing that they did mention was, well, the last time we were down there, we thought that you had to take down your high element equipment, which I did not like to hear. So it could be more than I anticipated it to be to get the equipment up and running, but once again, having taught this curriculum myself, it's very beneficial to our students, so it's definitely something that I'd love to have within the next 5 years. Swimming for students K to 8. The goal of mine is to have 5 to 10 sessions for every student K to 8, at least an hour long. To do this, it may require a full-time aquatics PE teacher, but we're starting with the middle school next year, and we'll kind of see where that takes us. And then 11th and 12th grade PE electives, which could be half-year electives. And just a couple examples of what an 11th and 12th grade elective could look like would be aquatics and or lifeguard certification. Adventure activities, we have a mountain and a beautiful river that's close to us. We might as well start looking at activities that can utilize these resources. Recreation sports, strength training, competitive sports, and then dance, aerobic fitness. And then finally, just a couple goals. So one goal of mine within 5 years is to have every student that graduates from BHS will have been offered CPR first aid certification. Every student that graduates from BHS will have developed a personal fitness plan. This would be essential for our 9th grade curriculum, which would teach them the value of muscular strength and endurance and how to use the weight room in our facilities. To increase enrollment of BHS students into interscholastic athletics. And then 4 would be to provide year-long opportunities for our student athletes.
I have a question.
Yes.
And I would defer to your expertise, but is there any need for either coaches to learn or have folks that come in that have I guess techniques that can be used in certain sports to make them more competitive?
Absolutely. There's always professional development, even at the coaching level, and there's always different types of trends that are happening depending on the sport. Baseball, for instance, there's been multiple trends in regards to batting stances and pitching mechanics. It comes down to what the coach feels is going to be most effective for what they have in their program. So there are opportunities for coaches to seek this type of development. And I feel with the restructuring how we work, our conditioning coach here for each of the season is going to aid as well, because they're going to be able to provide workouts and other things that are sport specific. So for instance, your football player may not be working out the same way as a basketball player just because of the different needs of the different sports. So that's what I hope to develop out of that position to really make exclusive for our individual programs.
Okay. Is there any pay-to-play issues? In other words, like the student has to get their own equipment or anything like that, and they can't afford it?
As of now, no.
Okay.
Not for what we offer here in Beacon.
For the coaches, kind of along your first question, is there any kind of evaluation of the coaches to say, well, maybe this coach does need, a particular coach does need additional training in order to, more effectively coach the kids?
So what I was able to do upon coming in was to take the last 2 athletic directors' coaching evaluation. I was able to tweak it. I was able to make it a little bit more exclusive for what I operate with. For instance, all of our coaches are required to interact through Google Docs. Their roster form, their bona fide athlete verifications, their varsity letter recipients, their bi-monthly check-ins. It's all on one single document that they need to provide to me. So part of the coaching requirement is for them to have this document completed in full before we're able to move forward. So I have some differences with that. Part of that is also their positivity, how they're interacting with students, how they're interacting with the parents in the program as well. So we are monitoring what our coaches are doing. When it comes down to their skill set, there is a section in there that looks at how they're coaching, their knowledge of the game and sport, and how effective it is for their athletes.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
I don't have a question. I just want to compliment this presentation and just say that it's so great for how inclusive it is and how it's focused on reaching out to all the students. That it's encouraging activity and getting. I love the idea of kids getting outside and sort of orienting them to where they live and developing, that each child will be reached by this, because I always think, when you play sports, it's so great, but then there's always kids who feel like it's not for them, and so this seems like it's really weaving it into a whole curriculum and setting them up for life. And the 5-year plan was fantastic. I think you've really thought about every grade level and just us as the system as an organization, and it was great to read, and it's really great to hear you present it and hear all your enthusiasm. So thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of comments. Some of the comments that have come up from the public have to do with trying to get recess, get outdoor activities for kids when the weather permits. And I don't know if that fits into your bailiwick, or whether that's more for the principals and the academic administration in general. What do you think?
Well, we have our real field standards that we're bound to by coaches. For instance, when it reaches, I believe, 94 degrees, you're limited from going outside and participating in physical activity. But there's a set of standards that are on this real field document that I think that we can adhere to as a district, and elementary principals, or all the principals for that matter, can look to. For instance, cold, once it reaches a certain degree, below 32 degrees, you could still go outside. However, you have to have all areas of the body covered, you have to be wearing headwear, and you have to have an external jacket. So if we're able to look at these types of things, we can really pinpoint and be universal throughout the district if we're just able to follow this simple checklist. So I'm an advocate of everybody going outside. I think everybody agrees that we need to get outside as much as possible, but perhaps a little bit more clarity. I am part of the Health and Wellness Committee. That's definitely something that we can discuss, and we have discussed going forward, but to make it universal and simple to understand so that our students are getting out as much as possible while still being safe, I think it's a great idea.
Good. My compliments also. I particularly like the idea of developing a personal fitness plan and getting into the parts of phys ed that are beyond just the regular sports, and including some other unusual sports which can really add some interest to the overall program. I have one concern about swimming. When I went to school, we didn't have a name for the phenomena. It's only recently that somebody gave a name to this, and it's called body shaming. I'm glad they invented that term so we know we have it to use. It's actually a form of bullying. We don't allow bullying. So my concern when it comes to swimming, when you're practically naked or close to it, is that we may have issues there. Are students required to participate in swimming? Can they opt out for a good reason, or what? How does that work?
A goal, another goal, part of starting this process as early as kindergarten is the hope to assimilate our students to being normal, or to being used to being in the pool environment. Waiting until they're 14, 15, 16 years old for some of these kids for the first time they're entering into a pool can be a very intimidating thing. So if we're able to look at these lower grade levels and get them in the pool earlier, the hope is that it becomes just a normal part of the phys ed curriculum for them, and that we don't run into these issues. I can't promise that it won't happen, but I think the sooner that we get in, the more normal and the more used to their everyday process, the more successful it will be.
Glad to see that we're focusing on a dance team too, because dance is not only a sport, it's also an art. And we're lacking in dance to some degree in this district, where I think we can make some steps forward. Thanks, and good program.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the strengthening, making so that our athletes are stronger. Wanted to ask more of in terms, and I know we have the making sure they keep up with their academics, but any aspect of mental health, there students that may have either adverse experiences in the past or where they're going through a tough time. How are you tying that into the program so that they may be using the sports as an outlet, but they may not be at the same level mentally with everybody else?
Well, one of the benefits of these off-season programs isn't just what you're able to gain physically through your body. It's able to, a lot has to do with the relationships that you're building with the other people that you're around and the coach. So the more you're around somebody, the more comfortable you get, and the more that you realize that they're there to help you. And just being a coach in the past, you were able to have very productive conversations with kids after the weight training session, if they were having a problem at home, if something was going on, if they didn't know if this was the right thing for them. That gave them the opportunity, and it showed them that you're there. I'm a big believer of us being committed to our students, like I say, not just during the season, but year-round, for these kids to know that we're here for them and we want them to be successful. So I think it will work hand in hand with that. Do I have something specifically to touch on that? At this time, no. But just having them be around us, I mean, the way that our football off-season workouts are going, we're getting more and more kids each session, and the kids don't want to leave. And they're staying after with the coach, and he's staying with them. And it's just creating, they want to be here, and they want to be a part of it. And if we could do it with football, we should be able to do it with everybody. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Noah, did you have any questions?
I just wanted to say that I think the whole CPR thing is a really good idea. I know a lot of kids, they don't know any of that, and it's very few, so I think that would be good for the district. And the electives are definitely a popular thing among students. I'll be talking about this survey later, but a lot of students did want more athletic electives, so that would definitely be popular also.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. Thanks so much, Mr. J. Madden.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fasheen.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. Just tonight we want to go over the 2018-19 proposed technology budget for the coming school year. Just a quick agenda rundown here. We're going to go over the technology department, do a quick overview. We'll run through the 2630 computer-assisted instruction code, which is the formal term for the technology budget. And I'd like to touch on two of our biggest items going on right now. One is the one-to-one initiative that we're proud to be rolling out this year, and the other is a focus on STEAM and maker spaces. And then if you have any questions, we can answer those. So just to do a quick overview of the technology department. Staff, we have the Director of Technology, that's myself. I have a network specialist, an information services specialist, an audio-video technician, an office systems specialist who's our data coordinator, and then we have a .6 BOCES shared technician, and that's a new addition for this year. That's been working out very well. We're happy to have him. His name's William. Our guiding principles for the department. Our goal is to ensure the Beacon City School District models digital literacy and provides access to and integration of effective tools and strategies to ensure our students are prepared for college, careers, and life outside of school. We want to make sure that we use technology as a tool to achieve that goal. We do not want technology for technology's sake, and I say that all the time. It's very, very important that we don't just continue to push technology that is not actually helping us. We want to increase student performance in all areas with the assistance of technology and proper integration into existing curriculum. We want to provide district faculty with the professional development that's necessary to best make use of the additional tools. Bless me. And we want to continue towards our one-to-one device initiative to put a district device into the hands of every one of our students. And I am happy to say that we're starting that this year. We've been talking about that for years, and we've been kind of strategizing and putting things together, and to see it materialize is very exciting. So some notable changes for the 26-30 budget for the coming year. The budget continues to remain flat, except for contractual salary increases for the staff, and a reallocation of funds into 26-30, which is my budget code, from other district budget codes to fund software, hardware, program offerings from other departments. So I emphasize, when I show you the graph on the next page showing year to year, you'll see a big jump, but I want to emphasize that it's flat. The jump reflects the contractual increase and moving of funds in from other codes. So the number is staying the same, but it shows on the graph as a big jump because the dollar amount is increasing.
So does that mean that maybe you had different software packages or different things budgeted formally in different project code?
That's exactly.
Now you're pulling them all into yours, so yours would go up, but then theirs would be going down because you're moving them over.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Thank you.
And then another piece of this, and this kind of plays into what we were just talking about, is a major focus on utilizing available BOCES services in order to maximize district BOCES aid. We've spent a lot of time, Anne Marie and I have been working on that quite a bit, trying to get every last drop of aid that we can out of there so that we can continue to offer bigger and better programs in the coming years. So you'll also see a transfer of funds from all the codes to the BOCES services code to reflect these changes. So again, that you won't see a big increase in dollar amount to the budget, but you will see where we would have had double the amount in software. We've now transferred that over to BOCES services so that the same money is being spent, but double what we would normally get is coming back in. So and again, just a breakdown by code within the technology department budget. You can see I'm not kidding, we really did put a big emphasis on the BOCES services. It's over half of our budget. So that means over half of the budget is going to be aidable. And Anne-Marie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 57% aid through BOCES on everything we put through BOCES. So again, don't jump when you see this, but that's the jump in the graph that I was telling you about. Again, that's just from funds coming in from other line items across the district. One thing I'm particularly proud of is that if you look in the 2011-2012 year to 2012-2013, one of the things we had done is we cut a significant amount off the budget back then, and we've been operating within that original amount for 6 years now. So this year we're just breaking past that this year slightly because of the salary increases, but unfortunately it doesn't look as good on the graph anymore with the big jump. So just to break it down again, I don't want to go through each line item here. It's there for you to take a look at. But you can see a lot of what I was saying where I funneled much of the funds in the different categorizations into the BOCES code. So under hardware, for example, we've dropped that down $100,000, and that's $100,000 that we've moved to BOCES services so that we can get aid on that.
Just a quick question, Anne Marie. Just so it's clear in my head what that actually means by transferred it to BOCES services.
So we generate BOCES aid based upon expenditures that we have at BOCES. So when we talk again about state aid, one of the components of the state aid is our BOCES aid. So it actually gives us more revenue to allow us to pay for the budget.
Well, what's an example of something that we're now running through BOCES that we weren't?
We bought the Chromebooks, the one-to-ones that we're going to roll out for the initiative.
Yes, almost all of the hardware that we purchase is going to be purchased through BOCES. A lot of the software titles that we had been purchasing for use throughout the years is now available through BOCES. We're moving that over as well. So again, same contract, same quantities, same licensing, same ultimate use scenario, but we'll be able to get aid back on that. So it's really a win-win.
So we have to spend the money.
You have to spend the money to get the 57% back in BOCES aid the following year.
But it's the following year, so.
Correct.
So, but if we're talking about spending the money in 2018-19, we're not going to see it come back until the next year.
Right. Most of the increase there is either what Tim had mentioned, the small amount in salary increases
There's also an example, the Ricoh copiers that we currently have are budgeted in a different area in the whole budget.
Right.
But it was being paid for through the BOCES code, and it was hitting the technology. So when you see the whole budget, you'll see the money get transferred down. So you'll have less money into another area in the budget and more money into technology.
Okay.
So were we receiving BOCES aid back on these things? I mean, you're saying we've kind of been spending the same money, but we weren't receiving the BOCES aid back before.
Right. So if you buy it externally, you don't get the 57% back in BOCES aid. You just have the expenditure with no corresponding revenue following you.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff, throughout the years, things have been added to BOCES because of our interest in them. So it's not like it's always been available. These things are added as we go. Between myself and the other districts, we'll request things of BOCES, and they'll be able to add those services and make them available to us. And then it's not quite so simple as saying, all right, BOCES, we'd like to switch this over now. It involves, an agreement with BOCES. It involves an agreement with the company to kind of transfer all of those licenses and agreements. And scheduling that actually is one of the biggest difficulties, because when we had signed up for something in the past, we'd sign up in April or July or September or whenever it is that we needed to, and we would just get right on that. And the BOCES, because it is a cooperative service, we have to get on the same page with all the other districts.
Right.
So it tends to be a July to June, and we need to prorate these contracts. We need to work it out with the different vendors. So that takes a bit of doing, which is why it takes a little bit of time. So Anne-Marie and I have been spending a lot of time lately on this, trying to make sure we're shifting everything over where we can, and we're going to see a big return for that.
So that's good. So it sounds like it's also helpful to bring all these other budget items under you, so you're the accountable person.
That's exactly the reason.
Be looking to make sure we're getting the maximum benefit out of BOCES.
Exactly. It makes things easier to keep track of, keep an eye on, make sure we're paying for the appropriate amount of licenses and hardware pieces. Puts it all under one roof. The biggest downside really is the moving of everything, and it wrecked my graph.
Good. All right. Now we know who to come to.
So again, like I said, you'll see the biggest takeaway here from this page is that the BOCES services, we've gone from 330,000 to 972,000. So that's quite a jump. Again, the anticipated BOCES aid for the 2018 to 19 school year that we'll receive back is over $500,000, and that's an additional $366,000. So it's going to be a big help.
Tough question. Are we taking advantage of some of the I know the software that's available to students, because they're students, they're either available at discount or available for free. Are we taking advantage of those in lieu of some of the other softwares that we may have that we could replace maybe?
Can you give me an example?
Photoshop, Adobe is discounted for students. A lot of the Autodesk software.
On those, the way it tends to work, it really doesn't involve us outside of being an educational institution. The students are issued ID badges, and it tends to be an agreement with the company themselves. So we're not a middleman. There are a few exceptions to that, not very many, and the companies tend to be getting away from it. Like, we're a big Dell customer. Dell used to have kind of a purchasing channel where folks could go through us and buy equipment at a discount. They're moving away from that. It's kind of just show me your ID and we're good. It just removes a layer of complication from that. I find that to be really the only times big hardware purchases, like if you're buying several $100 or $1,000 laptop, where they have that extra layer. But again, like I said, they're getting away from that. And it seems like everybody's just call the company, tell them you are a student or you're a teacher or a faculty member. And it's not exclusive for students, it's also for faculty and staff as well. You can call and they usually have an educational discount for you. So I want to talk about the one-to-one device initiative. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and I'm very, very excited that we're going to be rolling this out in pilot form this year. Dr. Landau's this is a big push for him, and I'm really excited to see this move forward. So just an overview, the goal of this program is to supply a district-provided device for each of our students. We want to empower the students and teachers to enhance the successful learning that's already taking place in the classroom by using modern technology as a tool. And the already taking place is key. There's a lot of people that think, well, we're bringing in laptops. Everybody, I know you think you know how to teach, but we've got laptops now, and we're going to come up with a much better way to do this. That is not the case. This is a supplementary tool, and like I said, if you go back to my first slide, one of our main goals is to not use technology just because you can. It's to supplement what's the good stuff that's already happening. We don't want to take away from that. We want to enhance that. So that's a big piece of this. And then the secondary students will be permitted to take these devices home to allow for a blended learning environment and increased opportunities for flipping the classroom. And just a quick to touch on that, for those of you that aren't familiar, that basically allows the teacher to do the lecture portion of the class, if you want to call it that, and let the students take it home with them. So they can learn on their own time. They can reference video materials or online materials at their pace so that they can consume it in the way that works best for them. Then when everybody comes in the next day, rather than doing your homework at home, you would either break off into skill level groups or work together or work independently, depending on what works best for each student, and have the teacher facilitate the work. So it's less of a staring at the front of the room and more of an interactive, learn at your own pace model. And the research shows it works very well. Bless you. So just to lay out a timeline here, for the 2017-18 year, that's this year, we're going to do the one-to-one pilot program. We're beginning early March of 2018, so in a few weeks, for all the 7th grade students at Rombout Middle School. And just one thing that I want to mention about that is the equipment that we'll be using for the one-to-one program is not taking away from the equipment that is already available in the school. We're purchasing special equipment for this that will continue on with the students as they progress through the school. And that's a very important thing because while we've been increasing, the last few years we've doubled our Chromebook capacity across the district. While we've been doing that, and we do have the numbers to where we could support that, the utilization of the Chromebooks, and this is one of the best numbers I see every day, is the utilization of Chromebooks is just about 100%. And I've never seen anything like that in all of my years of doing this. You'll only ever see 2 or 3 Chromebooks sitting idle. And that's incredible when you're talking about 2,000 plus devices. So that's something we really didn't want to pull away from that. The demand is there. We don't have anything sitting idle, so we've been adding for that. And that's how we plan to continue into the coming year as well.
A question about the pilot. Will you also be collecting information on the after-school usage? And my second question is collecting information on whether there's any issues with connectivity. For example, if the student is in a home that doesn't have internet.
Mm-hmm. Well, the term collecting information, I want to just kind of clarify on that. We're not collecting any information through the devices. There's no usage tracking through that outside of, is a device sitting idle, or can we shut it down if it's been stolen? That's something I just want to make clear. It's not like we can sit there and monitor activities. So in that instance, yeah, we're not doing anything like that. As far as how are we going to see if there are difficulties for access outside of here, Dr. Landau and I have been talking about ways that we can kind of work with the community to see if we can provide some type of access throughout town. And I think it's going to be mostly surveys, kind of trying to glean from the students where the pain points are, get information from the teachers as well, and see if that is a problem, what we can do to help.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, maybe if it's a few central locations in the district,
mm-hmm.
we can address it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
One of the proposals from the administrative team was to, or is to open some of our secondary libraries in the evening. next school year. I'm not sure to what extent we can pull that off. We're still kind of working on the plan, but that would help with that issue too. You can do, some of the Google Docs without being connected, and then once you get to school, if the guy has one-to-one Chromebook, and we had some rural areas that had some real internet issues, and kids were able to usually kind of keep up to speed through just being able to do some of the stuff offline if there were major internet issues.
It may be something that if it is an issue, we have to work with our municipal counterparts.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we hosting all the data and the applications for the Chromebooks ourselves, or are they going to be offsite at some other servers?
Basically, we're using Google Apps for Education for all of our hosting. So that does the email, that does our documents and document sharing. Google Classroom is the learning management system that we use to facilitate the handouts, if you want to call it that. But basically, it runs through Google. It's all cloud-based, encrypted, same security levels as the enterprise offerings that Google has. And you'll find, if you look at most districts that are doing these type of things, you either have one of two options. You're going with Google Suite for Education, or you're going with Microsoft Office 365 for Education. And they very much mirror each other. It's just whichever platform you happen to be in on, and we use Google.
So as we expand the number of people who are using this, then does that mean that we'll also have to expand the budget for whatever they're charging us for all the storage?
No, it's actually through Google. It's unlimited, free of charge. Actually, it's the same thing for Microsoft as well. They're just in competition, which makes us the winner. So free of charge, unlimited storage, no limits to the accounts or quantity. It really opens up a lot of opportunities. Per device, there is a management cost associated. It's $25 once per device. So really, it's fairly inexpensive. And the Chromebooks that we use are fairly inexpensive as well. So it's not like the old days where we'd have to spend $500 or $600 on a laptop. We're spending about, with the warranties and the coverage, about $350 with the management license, with configuration. So it really is just the prices are getting driven down lower and lower. And the services are the offerings weekly. They come out with new services that are available to us. We get an update email saying, good news, we listened to your feedback and we came out with this thing that you guys have been asking for quite some time. And it's just never ending. So it keeps getting better, it keeps getting cheaper, and whereas if you had this discussion 10 years ago, we'd be talking about bandwidth costs, we'd be talking about storage costs and equipment costs and network facility costs and all sorts. At this point, the biggest factor to this is getting our hands on the equipment and getting it to the kids quickly, and the infrastructure to support it. So we have some infrastructure upgrades in the works right now. Mostly that's scheduled infrastructure, but we've made sure that the equipment levels should set us up for quite some time with all of these additional devices. And then we're also looking to upgrade our wireless in the coming year to account for any dead spots that we have, which we've been planning for a while. We've had the cabling done now, and we're moving to a newer, more capable network that's going to really handle all these devices, no problem.
Okay, my next question was going to be about bandwidth. I mean, are the data lines coming into the building going to be enough to sustain all this, and do the data carriers, do they charge us more if we start using up more bandwidth? Or?
Well, they charge you, it's basically a blanket fee by bandwidth, and it goes through E-rate, which is Able as well. We have that, and basically what we do is we pre-purchase a set bandwidth quantity. So at the moment we're at 350 megabits per second for the district shared. And as we go forward, we're in the middle of price quotes and bids for internet service at the moment. I have them speccing us out for 350 again, if we can work with that, 500, 750, 1,000. You'll find that if you look at the charts for what you need, it's exponential, it's not linear. So what the 1080p and 4K video that comes through and streaming audio, flipping classrooms to where this video becomes that much more critical. We're not just watching YouTube. These are educational, high-quality production things that they're viewing. to work with in class, it just keeps getting higher and higher. So as we're investigating, additional agreements with the bandwidth company, we're just making sure that we price that up for the next 5 years or so.
Is there any thought to replacing textbooks since you're going to have these devices that you could have all online?
Yeah, Eric and Cecilia are working on a plan to slowly kind of start switching over to that, slowly or quickly, where it makes sense. And they'll be doing more budget work with the board in March, and so they can be updating a little bit then about that.
I have a question about smart boards. That came up in the survey that we just did. And are there classrooms that don't have smart boards? What is our deployment there?
Can I check back in on that once I finish with the one-to-one timeline?
Sure.
I just want to get through this before we get too far off the topic. And I'll try and move through it. It's mostly, you'll see it all on the slide, but just to keep laying it out. Like I said, for the next year, because this is a pilot, there's only going to be a few short months of this. But I think in that time, we'll learn a lot about what we need to do and accommodate for and adjust to make sure that the next full year is successful. So the 7th grade students from the pilot program this year are going to continue using the devices into 8th grade. New devices will be purchased for incoming and new 6th and 7th grade students. And that will complete our Rombout middle school one-to-one device initiative rollout. This is going to be sustained each year with new devices purchased for the incoming 6th graders, so we'll just continue that. That's a factor in the budget. So we'll be prepared for that. And the existing Rombout devices, once we're saturated in that building, will be redistributed amongst the elementary schools and the high school where it makes sense to increase the counts there as well. So like I said, the utilization is very high, which means we can just keep adding and seeing it. We're very close in numbers to one-to-one across the district anyway, despite this. We have some aging hardware, so you don't want to bank on that to continue it through, cycling through for the students at each grade level. But quantity-wise, we're very close as is. The following year, year 2, we're going to start the initiative at the high school, and that's going to be the 9th graders that continue to use the device from the middle school, and that's going to be the last year of that round of devices. So we're shooting for a 4-year cycle, replacement cycle for this equipment. And what we're trying to do, we're going to have that last year be the first year of the students at the high school. It's the device they're used to, they're familiar with it. But I think that the newer models, the increased power as things, as time goes on, $250, $350 buys you a lot more. I think that horsepower is going to be more valuable at the older levels. So we're going to do, the 9th grade will be the last year of the devices that started in the middle school, and 10th grade is when the next round comes through. And it's going to be year 2 where we begin that. And starting there, we're going to sustain this program with new devices purchased for the incoming 6th and 9th graders every year. And then same thing for year 3. Those same grade levels will roll through, continue again, and we'll purchase for the remaining grade levels, saturating the entire secondary level. And again, the devices that are at the high school that are still haven't reached end of life will be redistributed elsewhere, most likely the elementary schools. So that's it for one-to-one that I have. You wanted to talk about...
I just want to jump in.
Sure.
Mike, I don't want to steal your question, but Mike asked me in an email earlier if we can speed up the one-to-one calendar.
Yeah.
And so it's something that we actually started talking about Friday afternoon. And that's part of why this is a process, so we can give feedback on things and make different plans. So we started talking today about ways to speed it up a little bit, and we'll come back in the next meeting or two just with how we can get the one-to-one going a little bit quicker. So that was good feedback, and I was actually kind of saying the same thing Friday afternoon. So what Tim just talked about is probably the most conservative approach to the one-to-one rollout, and we'll try to find ways to speed it up. Just quick thing about the one-to-one rollout, we're going to have a parent night at Rombout, and it got changed to February 28th?
I believe it's the 28th, yes.
So it's going to be February 28th. We're going to have teachers leading it, so a bunch of Rombout teachers who are really good with technology are going to be leading different sessions. We're going to have a session entirely in Spanish. for Spanish-speaking families, so we're very excited about that part of the rollout. And once it gets going a little bit, we're going to have some of those teachers come to a board meeting just to talk about what the pilot is looking like in their classroom too. So anyway, we had a little bit of a delay. There was an issue with the screens.
Yeah, there was a big
delayed
recall on the
order
screens
by a month or two, and so we're finally ready to go, and we're excited to get that pilot started.
Would you like to talk about the smart boards? You had a question before I?
Oh, I could come at any point in your presentation where it fits.
Now's good.
Fine with me.
Sure.
So just wondering how many we have. What is our plan for deployment? That just came up in the survey that some observers in there were commenting that they thought that the classroom ought to have a board and maybe didn't.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so number-wise, I couldn't give you the number right off the top of my head. I can tell you that last year we completed the elementary levels. Every classroom at the elementary level has a smart board or an interactive flat panel of some variety, regardless of the brand. At the high school and middle school, we have several around, but not very many. What we had done about a year and a half ago was try to focus the rollouts of the smart boards through the Smart Bond, the Smart Schools Bond Act, using that funding. That has proven to be very delayed. So we're still waiting on an initial review for a document that we submitted in July, actually June. And I keep pushing for updates. I've been to the meetings. I've been to big gatherings at SUNY New Paltz regarding this. And outside of, we'll get it to you when we can, I have little to no information about that. So it's been quite some time now that we're waiting. We can't really wait any longer. So we had two pieces to that Smart Bond Act. One was the infrastructure equipment, and the other was interactive flat panels for the high school and the middle school, the remaining rooms, and with enough to continue rolling on those as the older ones come end of life. Because it's so delayed, the infrastructure equipment I'm purchasing this year because I have to. So we're going to be spending that on additional infrastructure equipment through an amendment process. But we still need to have our document reviewed first before we can get there. So this year we're going to be focusing on that infrastructure stuff because everything we have here hinges upon that. It has to be upgraded. We're end of life. So that's priority one. Next year we've set aside funds to continue purchasing smart boards or interactive flat panels or whatever you like to call them, regardless of the Smart Bond funds. So if the Smart Bond does get approved and we're able to buy and be reimbursed for them, we will do those purchases and we'll be reimbursed for them. If we do not, we're going to buy them anyway. And then we'll hope that the next year's round can be reimbursed. I can't see a situation where it's not approved by then. But you never know. So this way we're prepared for that. We can continue moving ahead with the rollout of those. It's unfortunate that we've had the delay that we've had, but this is kind of our plan B, and we can't wait any longer. We're going to go ahead with that.
I want to add that I did elevate the issue to our assemblyman's office, and he's made some preliminary phone calls, and he's trying to track the. He's got some follow-up calls he's going to make as well on that. And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong. From my understanding from the process, it's these three heads of something or other that have decision making, and the one non-head, whatever, and they don't meet very often for some reason. So, in fact, I think there's legislation to make them meet. So
yeah, I'd heard that as well.
So so that's so we're going to keep pushing.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I wish I had more detail for you. I keep pushing, and I get more and more vague answers with this. So I really don't have any detail. So I think at this point the best course of action is to continue on as if we didn't have that funding, and then hopefully we have a pleasant surprise and get it in time.
But yeah, one caveat is that if we purchase first without the approval, we won't get reimbursed. We have to get if we do get the approval, then purchase, then we get reimbursed.
That's correct. And it is a reimbursement program, so we do have to have those funds to spend them in order to be reimbursed. So it's not like it's a detriment to us to have that money set aside for that. We're going to spend it anyway. The important piece of the Smart Bond is that there is no deadline on any of it, and we can apply for reimbursement or a new investment plan at any time, and there really is no penalty for that. It's just the waiting.
Do you have a rough budgetary number for what it would cost to do what we need to do?
Well, I do. It's $750,000 for the 150 smart boards that we had put into the investment plan for. To be honest, it's probably a bit high, and the reason for that is not probably high. It is high, and the reason for that is because in the Smart Bond investment plan, if you specify $2,000 for a board and it's $2,500, too bad. You just can't do that. If you specify $5,000 and it's $2,500, no problem. So we intentionally put that a little too high, just to be on the conservative side of things.
Within your network of probably professional colleagues in comparable positions in other districts, is there anybody that's been able to successfully submit and be reimbursed for a plan, and have they shared any tips?
Yeah, we talk about it monthly, and we all have tips, and I can tell you the advice that we have for each other varies month to month, as do the rules for application, as do the ways that you have to go about filing these things. We've done nothing differently from anybody else. It seems to be a timing issue. It's just when you hit it. I'll hear in the room some people got theirs right away. Very infrequently I hear that, but some people got theirs right away. Other people had all sorts of other technical issues that they needed to sort out. One of the reasons that we stuck with infrastructure and interactive flat panels is because it's simple, and the overwhelming consensus there was the fewer technical details you have in this document, the quicker it gets approved, the more likely it is to just pass through, and it's very clear this aligns with our goals, and onward. So that's why we tried to keep that as straightforward as we could. Like I said, there is no deadline. We will have that need for interactive flat panels going forward. So if we get reimbursed this year or the next year or the next year, it doesn't really matter. It's that we get reimbursed and then can use those funds for other devices and programs and things that we want to put into place. The infrastructure thing being the hairiest of it, because that is very time sensitive, and that's why we're pushing through for that this year.
Do you have one last slide?
Yes, I do. So just to touch on it quickly, we've begun to purchase some STEAM and makerspace equipment for the elementary programs this year. We've allocated specific funds for this. This is a growing field. This is where people are going these days. So we've allocated funding for that specifically next year for the elementary level as we continue to expand the scope of that program. And then also we've allocated the funds as well for the middle school and the high school, so that we can kind of get the ball rolling there. We have a new technology teacher there, and she's been excellent in helping us kind of plan out what this is going to look like. And I've been working with Mr. Soltish to kind of reimagine our spaces and our computer labs and see what it is we can do to kind of have this makerspace environment and step away from the older models of a bunch of kids staring at computers in a room, looking at the whiteboard. So we're investigating options for that. I just wanted to mention it because it's such a big part of things moving forward. We're still putting the details together on that, but I figured it's very important to mention, so I'd put a slide in for that.
I'm just interested to know, for these modifying these spaces, are you're looking at major renovations where you need more capital type money, or are you talking about, if it's, desks or smaller things?
Right now I think it would be just with the existing structures. Yeah. Possibly some, we've been having some very initial conversations about some different furniture purchases for some of these spaces. But right now, just the existing spaces that we have.
But certainly one thing, as we look at the next
Yeah.
capital plan in the 22 time frame that we may, especially here, whether it's industrial arts or maker spaces or whatever, really
Yeah.
need to try to lay out some of the vision that we want to get to
Yeah.
and include it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it'll be part of the curriculum discussion, but it would, because it seems like your role in this is allocating the funds and rolling them, moving them through a centralized purchasing mechanism.
Mhm.
But I would be curious down the road to hear about how the purchases are prioritized and what like are they being those Ozobots or?
Yeah, and that's something we've been working with the technology committee to kind of plan with that. We've been working with Eric and Cecilia to try and lay out what this is going to look like. If you ask any district what a makerspace is or can you define it, everyone's got a different answer for you. So we need to define that for ourselves and make sure that we're doing what we think is best for the kids and giving them the most opportunities within that space. And then we'll adjust as, you can't tell the future with these things, so we have to try it and adjust and adapt and plan as best we can, and I think flexibility is going to be key here.
I just had a question. I think 2 years ago we had a technician retire and we replaced full-time with a .6
Yes.
BOCES technician.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about increasing the amount of one-to-one Chromebooks and smartboards and so forth. How are the current staff going to be able to meet the needs for the computers and stuff?
Well, one of the best parts about the Chromebooks is that they're fairly bare bones, and I mean that in a good way. They're very similar to a cell phone, like you have a smartphone, in the way that if you're having a problem with it, chances are it's either physically broken or resetting it to factory will do the trick. So in that scenario, a lot of the repair and the maintenance and stuff either boils down to warranty work, where we can send it back to the manufacturer and have it back repaired, having spares available so that we can get the turnover for the students down to a minimum. If something breaks, it's back in their hands as quickly as possible. And then try and keep that maintenance to a minimum. The biggest piece is going to be the inventory and the tracking as things shuffle around. We want to make sure that students have the ones that belong to them and they're where we expect them to be. As of right now, we've been adding, I don't want to say this indefinitely, but we've been adding double the equipment each year for the Chromebooks. And while we do feel the squeeze a bit more, because of the nature of these devices, it's so much more manageable than it had been in the past. That's not to say we're not going to run into hurdles going forward as we have more students and people using these things simultaneously, where we need to increase that count. But that's something we have to look at as we get some real hands-on data.
And the other question was the teachers. I know that they'd be getting PD and so forth with the smart boards,
Yep.
and maybe if they're using an interactive like Schoology or Google Docs or Google Classroom and so forth, but they running the hiccups and they may need that support. Is the district looking at consulting with like not just BOCES for like a educational technician, so like they're in the district and they could be on call or be planned to facilitate and like co-teach lessons with the teachers, or is that something that we've started looking at? Or
Yeah,
not?
that's actually something we've looked at and are continuing to look at. We're a member of the Model Schools Coaster through BOCES, and in that we have a couple days a year where we're able to have one of their representatives come out and work with our teachers or the staff or the administrators. They're very flexible and very capable. So they're great for coming out for training, superintendent's conference days, kind of whatever we need. We have the option to look at a on-site support model that you were speaking about. A lot of districts are doing that, and we have the option to continue to purchase and work with them for blocks of time and have their representatives from model schools come out and work with us in that way as well. So again, it's one of those things we need to see how it kind of plays out. We have, just from working with the other districts that are doing this type of program, we have a bit of an idea how this is going to play out. But it's very individualized. It's going to be very specific to our needs and our teachers and our students. And we'll have to see kind of where we fall on that spectrum and then determine how we need to proceed.
So is that something we are already a member of a COSER, and then would it be similar to a 0.6? Like, is this somebody who's
No.
specifically education focused, or?
Yes.
I'm just imagining that a teacher, you know, when you do something in a more ad hoc manner, then that doesn't provide sort of continuity of presence, and then the teacher in their planning their lesson will just sort of discount something that's not right in front of them. If it's something that's an ongoing presence here, then it's a resource they know to utilize.
Yeah, I agree. And that's actually something I've been speaking with their model schools representative about, ways that they're looking to adapt that program towards this new model. The drop-in, drop-out model of PD doesn't work so well. So they're trying to adjust so that if you do purchase some days, they workshop it, they come back, they meet with the same folks, and they follow up, and there's assignments involved, and you can kind of further things rather than, here's something, goodbye. So I know that's something that they're working on over at BOCES, and I've been talking to them a lot about that.
Is there information that we could look up about the model school?
I'm not sure what they have available on their website, but I think it's dcboces.org.
The thing is that we had a teacher that worked for us and went to Ulster BOCES as that like tech educator piece, and now she's back in the district in a classroom all by.
We're the Every Student Succeeds Act grant that we're trying to finish this week because it's due on Friday. That is why Cecilia's not here. She's writing. Is the technology portion of the grant. We're trying to write a technology integration specialist into the grant. It would only be for a year, but it's someone who would provide that real-time PD. When I talked about elementary schedules earlier, and we talked about library media being outside of the rotation, that means the classroom teacher goes with their class of library media. When we talked about it in one of our focus group budget sessions, several teachers said, that means I'll be learning along with the library media teacher about some of these things that I need to learn more about. So there's a few things we're contemplating with this, but I do see the need of, Friday is a professional learning day for our district. A large portion of the sessions are teacher-led technology sessions, and we have a lot of strong teachers in regards to technology who are really willing to share. So we've got to figure out some ways to tap into it more than we're doing right now.
Yeah, and I've been talking to Eric about this as well as he's planning. I have this as tentative, so I'm not supposed to let this out yet. It's not finalized, but I have his tentative sessions, and we know what the sessions are. And one of the key things that he's trying to focus on is both a beginner and an advanced level, so that way we don't just repeat that same information for the people that are comfortable. We can continue furthering them while still catering to the folks that aren't quite there yet. So it's the different levels, all the way up to it's the students, it's the teachers, it's the same thing. You have to work it the same way. So that's what he's been doing here, and a lot of these sessions, they just did a survey out to the staff about what they'd like to know and see and learn more, and he's very much catered these sessions towards those results.
That's great, because I think if somebody doesn't access it the first time or understand it, that reduces their shame about coming forward
and we have it so that they're able to sign up for what they're comfortable with. So that's something that we offer for them on these days as well. The ability to kind of, I don't want to say it's fully a la carte, but you can kind of choose your own adventure with that stuff.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Noah, did you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we turn the lights back on so I don't fall asleep?
I know.
Talk about inventory.
Touch action. Professional handling.
Press the button to turn it off, so I thought I pressed the button to turn it back on.
Yep.
Sorry.
Here we go.
All right, so reviewing the agenda, we do have a correction to 11.03, non-instructional, resignation number 2. It's a date change from 3/2/18 to 2/28/18. We also have an addendum to the non-instructional list, and it will be E1, which is Keep it going. Thanks. Which is the termination of an employee, and it will be effective tomorrow, or today. Today, sorry. Any other corrections or adjustments to the agenda? Seeing none, student or school presentations? Parent groups? Whatever you want, Kathy.
Pretty fast. Good evening. I have to write my notes down because I get too nervous talking in front of everybody. So, good evening, Dr. Landau, Mrs. Corderoni, Mr. White, and all the board members. My name is Kathy Hotelling. I come to you tonight on behalf of the teaching assistants at Sargent Elementary School. Over here is Ms. Panko. She is also one of our assistants, extremely valuable to us. Over at Sargent, there are 9 teaching assistants. We cover pre-K through 5th grade in inclusion and self-contained classrooms. Our job responsibilities are numerous and cover a wide spectrum. Our goal, first and foremost, is the students. We strive to help them achieve academic, social, and emotional success. Our students have various needs, and we make it our goal to help them succeed no matter what obstacle they may face. We come here tonight to introduce ourselves to you. We know you've been in our building and in our halls where you have seen us in the classrooms, but do you know what we do? We support our students. We assist the teachers. During instruction, we circulate amongst the students, making sure they stay connected. We supplement the teachers' lessons in small group settings so that they receive more individualized attention and instruction. At times, we give one-to-one instruction when a student is struggling. Our goal is personal success for the student. We take great pride when a student successfully completes a task and says with a smile, "I get it, I did it." We are called upon to help modify a lesson so that it's not overwhelming to a student. On many occasions, we are called to substitute for a teacher. We gladly step in and do our best to fulfill the lesson plans for the day. We also support the students outside of the classroom in the special areas of physical education, art, music, library, recess, and lunch. Recess and lunch can be extremely challenging for our students. Helping them integrate and feel like everyone else is vital. They just want to play and have fun. Many need encouragement to join a group. We're there to guide them. Finding a table to sit at during lunch and enjoy the time can cause them great anxiety. We make sure they have a safe place to eat and get to laugh with their friends. We also clean up the tables, making sure that they're clean and healthy and safe for the next group of students that come in. During PE class, many of our kids are intimidated by the task assigned to them. I'd just like to share one story I have with you. We just completed the volleyball lesson at our school. At the beginning of the session, one of my students said, "I can't do it. I hate volleyball." I took the student to another section of the gymnasium, worked one-on-one with him for a little while on how to serve the ball. He was petrified of how to hit the ball over the net, and he couldn't do it. I worked with him. We slowly joined the rest of the kids at the nets. At the end of the class, he said, "That was fun." He said, This student achieved a personal best as he realized he could play volleyball. I'm grateful I had the opportunity to see this transformation. In music, we help guide them as they learn to read sheet music, which you've ever learned and seen with those 4 lines and trying to follow along. It's overwhelming for some of these kids. Just guide them along. In art, we see their hidden talents shine through. Choosing a book in library can be daunting. We guide them to the books of their level and their interest. They proudly walk out of that library taking their book home. With our support, these students overcome obstacles and reach new levels of achievement.
please keep in mind, we need your support. For some of us, this job and this income is vital to our daily lives. Many of us have had to take on second jobs as is necessary. For those of us that take insurance through the health insurance through the district, the 50% premium is very, very costly to us. We ask that you keep this in mind of our value to the students and the recognition that we deserve. As we approach the upcoming contract negotiations, we ask that you keep in mind all that we do for the students and teachers here at Beacon. Beacon is a great place to live, and a quality education is imperative for all. We want to continue to do our part and to be respectfully recognized by the Beacon City School District Board of Education. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to us tonight, and thank you, and have a nice evening. But I have one more. Because that was mine. There was another one of my assistants who wanted to come tonight, but due to a last-minute issue is not able to be here. She printed out her story for me. It reads, "Good evening. My name is Tracy Gaida, and I have been an employee of the Beacon City School District since December 2000. I began my career at J.B. Forrestal in a self-contained 161, which was the most restrictive setting at that time. Currently, I am the AIS math instructor at Sargent Elementary School, where I do scaffold teaching and small group instruction for students that meet the criteria. I am also a member of the RTI team that meets to discuss students that may need a more individualized plan, where I come up with a strategy and goal for that student to meet. There is data collection process and outcome for each case that Tracy compiles. I've also been a student council advisor in the building for the past 3 years. Our focus is on making a difference in our community, as well as in our school community, as well as the local community. Some of our yearly projects include coat drive, food drive, cards and chocolates for their local veterans, which she does twice a year, Veterans Day and Valentine's Day. Our veterans get cards and chocolates from us. Build a stocking, fill a backpack. There's fundraisers for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, all done by a teaching assistant. Within our school, we have been able to purchase for our building a new climbing rope in the gymnasium for the PE program, orzo bots for the library, and this year, through a fundraising program, she was able to get light boxes for our art teacher. Next year, she's going to focus on the music program. The students are excited when they see differences in the building that they have made, again, guided by a teaching assistant. Tracy prides herself on being a dedicated employee and continuing her education and professional development to be the best she can be for her students, showing them that she too can always be a better person and learner every day. So I just thank you for your time and listening to us, and we just ask you to continue to support in the upcoming months. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing some of the insight as to what you guys do as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other school groups? Parent groups? They're racing to the podium, or are you coming together?
Good evening. Rebecca Corrales. This is Lori Murnage. We are just here to really let you know about our upcoming Beacon Advocates for Music and Beacon Arts and Education Foundation joint meeting coming up on February 20th. It's a Tuesday, 7 p.m., and it will take place here at the high school in the community room. We were very happy as we're joining forces, and we were very happy to be able to speak with Dr. Landau early in January. A core group of us were together speaking about budgetary issues and as part of your touring with groups in the community. And we really appreciated having the opportunity to discuss some of our priorities with you, Dr. Landau. And we also appreciate the interest of board members who have been coming to the meetings. We hope that you will continue to do that. I don't know if you want to say something about it. Are you good? Okay. And just to remind you too, I think in a prior presentation, Lori did mention how BAM and Beacon Arts and Education Foundation are kind of joining forces, and we're really excited about that. We did have a fundraiser last November just as BAM, but that's right when we were getting together. We were able to raise about $750 for the elementary band program in Beacon, so we were really proud of that. And so we're going to be talking more about fundraising at the February 20th meeting, which is taking place here at Beacon High School on Tuesday, February 20th at 7 o'clock. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other parent groups? Public comment? We have one person sign up. Mr. Stark?
Good evening, Jan Stark, taxpayer and retired educator. Here tonight, because it seems like the district just continues to waste money. Here are a few examples. We paid an individual to coach a JV girls tennis team when there was no team and the district doesn't even offer JV tennis, and there is no assistant coach as part of the program. That was done this year at over $3,000 for that individual. We're paying an individual to be the assistant superintendent for instruction as well as a person to be the director of instruction. When you add in benefits, that comes to almost $500,000. Why do we really need that? What we really need is a director of human resources. Currently, you have a secretary doing that job. Also, by going top heavy at central office, it also reduces the ability to hire new teachers for expanding programs. We just gave a large contract to the deputy superintendent, the same individual that gave away the store to the BTA when negotiating a new contract. There's no provision to increase the BTA's contributions for health insurance. And if the forecast is right and health insurance is going to increase 17%, that could translate into $1 million or more cost for the taxpayers to pick up. BTA was also given $500 per teacher for a welfare fund. Do they have a board of trustees? Different from the BTA executive board, which is required to have. Have we given that money? What are they doing with it? What is the purpose of their welfare fund? The district is still hiring non-certified teachers. For example, the person hired as a technology teacher at the middle school is certified in early childhood education. The only way students get credit for any subject, whether it be technology, home and careers, art, English, math, whatever, is if it's taught by a certified teacher in that area. So kids are not going to get credit or a unit of study at middle school, for example, by not having a certified technology teacher in this particular instance. Our academic program at the high school is still poor and behind other local school districts. Even Walk Hill High School, put that in for you, Anthony, offers more programs than Beacon. The developed credit recovery program is a waste of money and does not really work. We will also have to stop giving credit for study hall in order to graduate some of our more challenging students and some of our athletes. And if you go to the data person and look at the data in the past 5 years, you'll see that I'm accurate in that, and that's the responsibility of the building principal who gave credit for that. Also, with regards, Anthony, you had said about using Autodesk as a free software, and yes, it is. But since we do not have any technology the technology and engineering educators here at the high school to fulfill a really fruitful STEM program, there's no need for us to have it in the district. Tonight we're hiring an individual to be an administrator mentor for $3,500.
20 seconds.
I thought we had 4 minutes.
It is. It's 3:40.
Since the individual is retired educator, was there an RFP put out for this position, and is there a job description? All of our building administrators have been administrators for a while, so who is being mentored? And shouldn't it be the responsibility of the principals to mentor their assistants, including the athletic director? And if you've been on a job for 8 months or more, you should already know the job. I'm sure no one gave Dr. Landau a mentorship this year.
Mr. Stark, that's time. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing your concerns as well. All right, super. Any other public comment?
Hi, how's everyone? Jody Macredo, parent, taxpayer, city council member.
Terry Nelson, parent, taxpayer, city council member.
Amber Grant, just a taxpayer, city council member, an interested
No
party.
pressure.
Yeah. We wanted to come and say hi, introduce ourselves for those of you who don't know us. I miss you guys. Now that my Monday nights are busy, I miss being here with you guys. But we wanted to let you know that we are definitely interested in having a good working relationship with the district. I know that conversations with city council is on the agenda tonight. We're here, we're listening, we're receptive. We want to work with you. The stuff that I heard tonight I thought was great. Really enjoyed the presentations. I want to really thank Dr. Landau for the community outreach that he's done since you were hired, before you even began. The community conversations, the meetings about the capital project, the meetings about the budget, that kind of transparency and community engagement has been fantastic, and we would like to work with you on that. And we're here.
And please know that, contrary to what you may have heard, our door is open and we're listening.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Landau.
Just going to do 2 quick slides. First, thanks to Tim and John for doing 2 excellent budget updates tonight. You were our first 2, so thanks for being the ones to volunteer for that. Right, you volunteered to be first, right? So just a reminder about our budget calendar. I made a few little additions to this. One on March 12th, I added the elementary schedules piece. That wasn't on one of the original budget calendars that we put out. Then I added something on March 19th, and that would be the 5-year plan. So we've been asking individuals coming up with budgets for their department to think long term. That 5-year plan will be some of the bigger items that we're thinking about for the district that are coming up in this surveying and needs assessing that we're doing. So then, I just also want to point out we've talked a little bit. We don't have to discuss it now, but we've talked a little bit about needing to add a second board meeting in April. The suggestion is April 16th. If the board does go with April 16th as that additional meeting, then we would switch our budget adoption date to April 16th. So it's just another reminder about that. And then just quickly, I wanted to just say a huge thank you to, we talked with over 100 community members in the PTO meetings that we had that were focused on the budget. Those happened mostly in the month of during the month of February. January, February. I'm getting all messed up. It's the snow days that are killing me. And we are in the middle of meeting with staff. So we've had about half our schools, and we're scheduling the other half. and we did a survey, and it was very open-ended, so we had, just a hugely varied response to it. But we had over 300 people fill out the survey, which was great. These are just, if you read it, and you read it really quickly, these are just some initial themes. What's cool about a survey like that is there's just these individual ideas that also stick out. So I mentioned in a lot of the meetings that we did, this process isn't a popularity contest. We're not going with like whatever we hear of most is what we're going to put into the budget, but we're getting lots of great ideas. So these are just some themes that are coming up both from the survey and the meetings that we had, more academic offerings at the secondary level. That could mean AP classes, it could mean a second world language, more electives, art and music. Noah, you did a survey and you're going to fill that in a little bit when you have your chance to talk. Another theme is smaller class sizes at the elementary level. Last year's budget tackled that to a certain degree by adding 3 positions to the budget. And so we've been working with principals to identify areas where we need to lower those class sizes. More art, music, and PE at the elementary level is another theme. Deeper technology infusion across the district. Craig, you mentioned it. I'm going to say teaching screens, smart boards, whatever we want to call them. And also expanding our one-to-one initiative. And then more clubs and extracurricular offerings. That is something that we heard a lot at those face-to-face meetings that we had. So I added that question to the survey. And we just have lots of great ideas for that. So we'll be looking for ways to expand that across all levels. And then this last theme I call Whole Child. And so there's a lot of things that go underneath the Whole Child umbrella. Hopefully we should think of all these things going underneath the Whole Child, but more recess, more mindfulness activities, more outdoor activities, more field trips. So these are just some of the initial themes. We're going to be digging a little bit deeper into the survey and what we're gleaning from these meetings. But really want to thank people, 300 people responding to that survey puts us somewhere between 20 and 30% response rate, which is great. And so I thank people for taking the time to either fill out the survey, to come to the meetings and talk. And we will, the other part of that calendar that I didn't mention is after the board adopts the budget, we will go back out to all the PTOs to talk about what's actually in the budget. So just back to the calendar again, we're going to be taking these themes from the budget. We already have started with some of the work you heard tonight, and we're going to try to capture the things that do have a price tag to them. Usually they're attached to, not all of those themes, but a lot of them are attached to additional staff. And we're going to try to create a 5-year plan with board input on how we want to tackle a lot of these things that our public, our constituents are identifying as things that we want to see in the school district. We cannot get them all done in this particular budget, but we're hopeful we can at least start tackling a few of them. But we think having a good 5-year plan will help us just really organize our thinking. So I just wanted to provide that update and just remind people when you fill out a survey, it just doesn't go into some black hole. I know the board members have been reading it all weekend. I've been poring over it really as each response comes in. I'm kind of obsessive that way. I check the survey all the time when it's live, and it's just very valuable. Just also want to say thank you for all the patience with all of our snow and delayed days. I think in weather terminology, we've had some active systems the last few weeks. So we've had, since winter began, we've had 5 till 2-hour delay days and 3 snow days. And I don't like making those calls either. It usually causes some sort of disruption in my household too. Two of those 2-hour delay days, my son's field trip to the aquarium got canceled. The makeup day that they decided on was another 2-hour delay day. So I really don't like making those calls. But a team of people really works on making those calls. I just want to remind folks that Ron Mackey is key. He and his staff are out oftentimes at 3:30 in the morning, driving around, checking on road conditions. And Anthony D'Amato is also on the job very early, checking conditions of the building, sidewalks, parking lots, etc. And every once in a while, I'm pressed into action and driving around Beacon as well, since I'm a local guy. And so a lot of people are involved in making that decision, and we try to make the best one. And I think winter's over. So I'm going to end with that, knock on wood. But just thanks again for all the budget input from the community, and we're really excited about putting this whole package together for this upcoming school year, but also for the years to come too.
All right, thank you. All right, committee reports including board comments. We're going to start with the student rep tonight. Noah.
So as Ms. Dr. Lane said, we did get survey results back, and we're still working, Eddie and I, on putting them onto a document. But the summary basically is the majority of students do want more AP courses. 34% want electives and 28% want languages. And the breakdown of that was like 12% freshmen, 20% sophomore, 60% juniors, and very minimal senior input. They don't care too much. We did meet with guidance this week, and after reviewing the 2018-2019 packet, we did see one new AP course added, and we have about 4 new electives added. And one AP course is AP Environmental Science, and that was on the students' to want list, so they were happy about that. And the electives, they were also happy about. Some juniors were not, because next year they will be from 9th and 11th grade through those grades, so the seniors will not be able to take part, so we're working with guidance on getting more electives for the incoming seniors. So that's for the survey. I wanted to point out the National Honor Society is doing a fundraiser, multiple soon, in honor of Jade, to get her a new wheelchair in her fame. So they're doing a good job with that, and both the junior and freshman class are working on fundraisers right now. And to add to what was said about bowling earlier, I just heard they got 3rd place in sectionals, so congrats on that.
And I just want to jump in, thank you, Noah. Annie, our other student advisor to the board, is not here tonight. She's at the track meet. And if you go on Coach Henry's Twitter feed, you'll see a little video of her doing the shot put. And it looked really far. And so I'm thinking she did really well. So that's why she's not here tonight.
Were you done, Noah?
Yes.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, Mike.
Okay, I'll start off. The Facilities and Operations Committee meeting sounds like it's going to be the 27th of February. Okay, 27th of February at 7 p.m. at the administrative office. That had to be pushed from middle of the month, so the 27th of February. Tonight I did appreciate the athletic and technology presentations. The best thing was that we discussed a 5-year plan, and I've been kind of asking, about a longer range plan for a couple of years now, actually. And because to me, if we don't have a vision about where we want to go, especially over 5 years, there's no way we can align the resources, whether it be facilities or personnel, budgets, supplies, in order to, curriculum, in order to support that. So the only way to do that is to lay out these 5-year plans. And I like how going forward, Dr. Landau, you'll be looking at, you had a tag in there for vision. And so hopefully that piece of it will include pulling some of these different departments, making sure they're all aligned, so that we're, then it's definitely achievable. Also like to see some of the integration. I know we talked with the capital project in the turf field. Now we're talking in the future for lights. We have the marching band, which is a great place to do that, and the Friday night lights, the dance team. So things all coming together and integrating. I really like to see that in the plans. Let me see. I also did participate in one of the community PTO meetings about the budget. I think that those type of meetings have really helped in communication, and which is one of our visions about community involvement and communication. So I do really appreciate those. Back to the facilities and operations. So tonight we're going to be voting on our contract with our architects. So that's like the next big step in order to get the architects working on putting all the scopes together for the capital plan. And one of the major scopes that we'll start working on right away is the turf field. We want to get more details on the plan, turf selection, etc. So that scope can be more defined, and it's got to be put together sooner than the rest of it. So that's really what we'll be focusing right off the bat in the Facilities and Operations Committee. That's all I had.
Great, thank you. Craig?
Nice presentations tonight. I'm glad to see a lot of vision out there, and let's get down to the budget details at some point and see if we can make some of this happen. The survey, I was very impressed that we had 300 respondents. It took me a good hour to go through there, and the reason it takes so long is there's a lot of responses and it's on an Excel spreadsheet, so you gotta do a little work. And then the other reason is that some of those people got into like essay question length and really gave a good deal of insight into the specific things that they were talking about, and you could see that they really knew what they were talking about and had thought about it. I'm going to have to spend another hour to kind of go through it again. I think everybody here should give some serious look to that. That's a great resource. Some of these themes came out again and again, and then once in a while there would be the odd point that nobody else made that made me think that we have a few more problems than we're used to thinking we have. Some people laid out a few issues that were new to me. Then there is also a lot of validation for some themes that we've been hearing about. I see a lot of people talking about as a language, Chinese, Mandarin. That was interesting to see. A lot of validation for this cluster of learning that might be called experiential learning, career-oriented material, makerspace, shop, hands-on, home economics, a whole cluster of things that have to do with the practical side of life and working with things other than just computers and numbers and books and so on. So I was surprised to see how many people mentioned those things, and if you add them all up in the same cluster, it was a predominant theme. During the past few weeks, we've been to a number of these budget meetings. I was happy to attend a couple of them and to see that there were people that came out and were willing to talk and offer their insights as well. It's only when you get down to the ground level, to the user level, the people that are using the buildings, doing the learning, doing the teaching, the parents, that you really get the detail that we're looking for. And then we have to synthesize out of all of that input what we reasonably can focus on. I found it a very valuable process. Thank you.
Thank you. Meredith?
Excuse me. I wanted to say that I attended the Dutchess County Music ECMEA education. I can't remember exactly what it all, but it's an all-county collaboration where students get together for 2 days and they learn to play music together, and then there's a performance. I think there were 8 Beacon students there, which was really exciting, from chorus and also from band. The other thing I learned from that is that the way you get invited to participate in that is by participating in NISMA, which is happening soon, and so it is that thing of thinking about, increasing participation, thinking back a couple steps to where you can do that to make the difference. I was very excited, John, to hear your ideas for doing that, and I think we can apply those to other areas in the district. I attended the most recent curriculum committee, and we switched gears from the sort of visioning that we had been doing to read proposals, as Noah mentioned, for courses proposed at the high school. There is this AP environmental science class that we voted to approve. I don't know if I can't remember if we were the last. I think there's maybe one more step after us, but we said yes. Also a DIA contemporary art elective, a field biology elective, and a laboratory skills elective. All very exciting classes, I think, that really round out the curriculum at that school. So that was really exciting. The next meeting is February 21st, at 2:30. And the last other meeting I recently attended was the Chevron meeting, and this was just for the working group. It was open to the public, but it was more for the working group to discuss this 100 and some page document that Chevron's put together based on a lot of the history of the area, as well as the results of this design charrette process that some of the public participated in, and give feedback on it. My feedback was that it didn't really talk about what the community of Glenham is right now. I asked them to provide the population, number of houses, because I think it's really hard to judge what it would be like to have an additional 400 to 500 houses, or units. Some of them are more high density. Some of them are. I think some of them are single family homes. So which is what they're recommending, without knowing what's there now. It's hard to judge. And then the other thing that I talked to them about was building in a cost per pupil calculation for their contract of sale for the land. And they seemed very open to that, and I think that would be knowing what the developers' lawyers want to do to that idea in terms of not taking the full budget, or who knows what else they'll come up with. It'd be nice to write it ourselves as, people who are thinking a lot about education. So they seemed really open to that. I emailed them about next steps, and I'm hoping, to pass it on to our law firm, but that is where we are with that. And there is a meeting open to the public March 14th, where they will be putting out this whole document and kind of, sharing it with the public, and it will be open to public response. So I really encourage anyone who lives in Glenham, certainly, but this will affect all the communities surrounding, so it's open to anyone. And that's at the Slater Chemical Firehouse at 5:30.
Thank you. Kristen, are we well? As I eat a cookie.
Yeah. This shtick's getting a little old. The Wellness Committee is presently organizing the Elementary Family Fitness Night. I don't have a date for our next meeting. It seems like a lot of our organizing is happening online. Looking at John. No, I don't have. A lot of our organizing of our exhibitors and everything seems to be happening online. That's always a big event for us. But I will let everyone know that event is March 2nd again, so it's coming up imminently. So I know we will have a meeting. Additionally, Karen met with a smaller subset of parents that were taking a greater interest in nutrition, and so we haven't received a report from her about that meeting, but it seems like she's listening to feedback, and they're looking for possibilities to be able to brainstorm together how to. I've said this before. I think she does such a great job with everything that she has to accommodate getting nutritious food to our students. But there's always tremendous room for improvement, and so she's being very open to that, and is meeting with stakeholders to that end. One thing I wanted to say about Noah, who unfortunately had to leave, but one of our goals is, has been an informal goal, but has been to get more positive media coverage. And I feel like our newest member, sort of knocked it out of the park, because not only did we get a great story, but we got national media attention for it. So that was so great. And I work with an organization called Cookies for Kids Cancer, which funds clinical trials for specifically pediatric cancer, and in particular was started by someone whose child suffered and did not survive neuroblastoma. So knowing a little bit about that disease, it's amazing that he's here. And one of the goals with Cookies for Kids Cancer is to increase the rate of survival, because you never know what those kids will contribute, and they sort of ripple forward. And I think we have a living example of that on our board in him. I have such appreciation for this budget process right now. Everyone else is sort of saying the same thing, so just to echo that, it's been great to get all the feedback, to see all the energy involved in improving these offerings, and it's really exciting to see where we're headed. And so thank you, Dr. Landau, again for all the outreach, and to all the administrators and staff putting in such a huge effort. I also had in my comments to touch on tonight's agenda that we were hiring a mentor. I think this is actually such a great thing. I think it's a huge source of professional, it's a real sign of professionalism to say when you want guidance and to look to somebody with institutional knowledge. I think that's a good thing. Beacon's experienced so many changes, and anything that could help create a greater sense of continuity, anything that could guide a current administrator to do better and be better is going to save us long term in a lot of ways. So I had planned on saying that. Don't want it to be controversial, but that's it.
Thank you. Anthony?
Well, good evening. I attended the technology committee meeting on January 30th, and most of what was discussed at that meeting actually already was presented, or I filled in my mic, so I'm not going to belabor everyone's time on that, but just that we're working hard to do good work on that. I also attended the diversity committee. Actually, sorry, I'm the chair of it, so I have to attend it. And there's a lot of good work there too. We got an update on Black History Month. Everything from writing pieces about Jackie Robinson, the Bright Star Theater, the Underground Railroad, Jeff Haynes and his drum presentation, spoken word, Glenn Lassiter and her strings, and also there's actually a nice writing contest on Martin Luther King. All good work that's happening throughout this month. Next month is Women's History Month, and that's also still in the works. And come September is it's called Hispanic Heritage Month. I will say that I would actually prefer Latino Heritage Month, and I'm not going to belabor the reasons on that right now. But the good thing is that all these emphases are actually tied into the curriculum, and they're tied into lessons. They're tied into where the students are at in terms of what they're learning. So it's not just a celebration of diversity, but it's also part of learning our history. So I do appreciate that. And Matt talked about the grant. That's still pending. It's due in a few days, and Cecilia's taking the lead on that. And it's a grant that has three different areas, and you can apply, put 3 different applications in, and there's no guarantee you'll get all, or just 2, or just 1. But the areas are support safe and healthy student. The other area is cultural responsive teaching, restorative justice. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong ones. Trauma-informed strategies. So also there was a report out on the admin work. So the administrators have taken on the diversity goal and have broken on that. Actually, I'm sorry. So there is a March 19th board meeting that the admins will report on that. Because some of it's budget related. And that's it for the diversity committee. The next diversity committee is March 8th, 2018. I don't know when the next technology committee is. I apologize for that.
Look at it.
Sure. I also want to extend welcome to the 3 city council members that are here. Thank you very much for coming to our meeting. On a personal note, I am one of the mentors in the ACE mentoring project, which is the Architects, Construction, Engineering mentoring project, and it's mostly being attended by Beacon High School students. and the students are looking at developing concept designs for the land that City Hall is on. And don't worry, guys, we're not looking to tear down your building. All right. I'm also a big proponent of telling people. How's it go again, Matt? You don't tell people something you wouldn't do, kind of thing. I know I'm screwing up the cliche, but I will be playing basketball with everyone else against the Wizards on February 23rd.
Who's everyone else?
Well, everyone else that signed up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making sure you weren't volunteering.
I will try to drag everybody else with me. But if anybody is interested in watching the comedy of errors that I am, please, it's a fundraiser, so come and watch us play on February 23rd. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Anthony.
I do have some questions, though, so when do I ask those?
About what?
Are we, when we talk about the budgets, are we going to look, I know it comes up every year, but are we going to look at also using the Highland Current as an advertiser? My other question is, can we look at discontinuing the procurement of polystyrene foam containers? And just a comment is, I'm glad we're looking at pollution prevention as which I believe will bring down costs. That's all I have.
We're working on a couple different plans about the styrofoam. And so I don't think we've identified exactly which meeting we'll talk about it, but we'll share it in one of the upcoming budget meetings that the board is having. And I think that's the one comment. Don't ask anyone to do anything you wouldn't do yourself, I think. And now I guess I'll have to play in that game. Make me feel guilty.
Bill?
Yes, last Thursday was the Dutchess County School Board Association meeting. The presentation was given by Stuart Waxman, who is one of the attorneys at our law firm. The presentation was negotiations update, what you need to know about current trends in teaching negotiations. And so covered roles of superintendent and board negotiation, preparing for negotiations, factors that impact collective bargaining, negotiations that are outside of our control, cutting edge changes and what's happening in Dutchess County. And as part of that, he did bring up some of the contracts that have just been recently renewed, and of course one of them was that he brought up points in that as well. I have a hard copy. I'm waiting for a electronic copy so I can send it out to you all. If I don't get that soon, I will unfortunately have to ask Kelly to make a copy. So I'm trying to save her from having to do that. So hopefully we'll get the electronic copy. But reading through the emails from our board members, a comment had come up. There's a letter from Dr. Richard Hooley for BOCES regarding the 3 seats on the BOCES board, and someone said that it didn't mention Beacon as one of the component districts. It did. If you carefully read the letter, it mentioned 9 component districts. Those are the ones who you have to be a member of that district, a resident of that district, in order to qualify to take one of the seats. We are not one of the districts that can nominate a resident from our district because we already have a member on the board. Michael Riel is the vice president, so you're only allowed to have one member from a component district on the board at the time. So that's why we weren't mentioned in that section. We are mentioned later on as one of the ones that can't have a member. Finally, Dunkin' Donuts announced recently they are eliminating their styrofoam coffee cups. That's like an end of an era, because as long as I can remember, it's always been styrofoam. So,
don't worry, they'll be around for a super long time.
Yeah, we'd be on the cutting edge for school districts, I think, if we could eliminate all the styrofoam.
Well, there is a city committee that's interested in helping us through that process and even applying for grants. So
yeah. And I think one of the things we look at is what is the cost of replacing styrofoam with paper. I don't know if there's reductions that we would look at as well. For example, the amount of trash that you would haul away would probably go down, and I don't know, we pay fees that are different for recyclables versus non-recyclables, or or things that are degradable versus things that are not biodegradable. So
sounds like a future agenda item for discussion. All right. No more comments. All right, going to unfinished business, I do see that the first one, 10.01, it says parent groups. That should be board retreat update instead of parent groups there. And then the second conversation would be a discussion about the updates on the conversation with the city council. So I'll go to the board retreat updates, and I have my computer in front of me for a reason. I reached out to the three people that were mentioned at the last conversation, Chip Wood, Skip Wiseman, and Sean Bradwell. All three of them have gotten back to me. Chip is not interested in facilitating the board retreat. Skip Wiseman was asking about what outcomes we're looking to do. Matt's going to be setting up a phone conference with him as well, and he wanted to also have a phone conversation with two other board members for the topics. I told the topics were communication amongst board members and with the community. The other topic was, oh my gosh, hold up.
I'm sorry, what was the first topic?
Board relationships, basically, communication amongst board members and so forth. I'm just pulling up my...
And the community?
And the community, how we communicate there. Community communication and the role of board governance, how we go about our daily business. So he would like to speak to two other board members to see if there's buy-in before he submits a proposal. The initial conversation was, he goes, how much do you guys typically spend for a board retreat? I said somewhere around $2,500. He thought that was quite low. So he said he envisions it being more than one day and possibly a day and a half, if not two, where it could be broken up different ways, but he didn't think 6 hours would be enough to go with the topics that were being covered. But he didn't have a formal submission for the proposal. I was open to him, but I could help if someone else wants to reach out, two other people want to reach out for that phone conversation. I could share that. So what you do is you go on his website, and he has a scheduler, and you put in, and he'll call you promptly at that time that you schedule. And if you could do that, before the next board meeting, I could give you the email address and so forth. So two people, I could let them know, Kristen and Meredith. I'll call him up and let him know that you two will be scheduling, so he knows what it's about. Sean Bradwell replied back that he feels he could do this type of retreat. He wants to get a sense of how to best break up the time. It could be done in a day, but again, content will be important. He has a rough estimate of about $2,000 for the time, if it was one day, and preparation work. He gave some possible dates as to March 2nd, 3rd, March 16th, 17th, first weekend in June, or second weekend in June. I told him that we were having a meeting tonight, that I would get back to him after we had a discussion as to...
But he doesn't need to talk to us.
He doesn't need to talk. But I could let him know that, hey, listen, we're vetting the other one as well. I was transparent with all three that I talked to, saying I'm reaching out to see who could facilitate board retreat.
Well, the Skip, is that his name? I mean, did he give you an idea of how much it would be? Because if he's totally out of our price range, then I don't know that we...
Skip does a lot of PDs and forums in the area, so he's used to having people sign up, like 20 or 30 people, and he does that type. So he gives it a title. Like he has said, the way I became familiar with him was I went to one of his conferences where he had the 7 sins of communication errors, and that was like a whole day that he spent on the 7 sins of communication. And I know it's pretty costly for a person to go to it, like $350, $400 per person. If he usually gets about 20 to 30 people, so I don't know if that's how he's estimating.
That doesn't sound like that's going to be in our price range.
I was nervous, but I didn't want to say no because I didn't get a formal proposal, and he wanted to speak to 2 other people. He was more about what outcome is the board looking for, so
Well,
he's going
let's
to
try to
ask
talk
you
to him.
about outcomes.
Let's try to talk to him this week so
Yeah.
that if we have possible dates from, I can't remember.
We have Sean.
Sean, we don't lose those dates because it sounds like it might not be even.
I think that June would be realistic. I mean, just with our budget calendar and everything that we have, and we're adding an extra board meeting. I mean, if we're talking about a full board retreat, I mean, I think that would make sense to do.
Well, it's also after the election.
Yeah,
If
that would
there's,
be an issue
if
too.
there are new board members,
If we're making
you
this
include them.
investment, we want it to have the most impact that it could have. So.
I have no problem reaching back out. I'll reach out to the 2 and let them know that you'll be contacting and doing a scheduler, and I'll also reach out to Sean as well.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other conversation on this board retreat? I kind of put it on there as a placeholder so I could remember and gather all my stuff for it. Right. The second was a conversation with the city council. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear. After our last board meeting, I reached out to Mayor Casal and asked him, and I don't know if it was right or I didn't go back and watch the board meeting, that we would like to have a discussion with the city council. I remember the conversation saying it's been hard to get the whole city council and the whole board, that it would be good to have a small group of each one where there's no quorum to have a conversation. So that was what I reached out to Mayor Casal with. I didn't hear anything back. I called him back after his February 5th council meeting, remember, and I said, hey, listen, where are we at with having a city council, like a couple of city council members and a couple of board members get together? And he let me know that he was going to ask Anthony Ruggiero to reach out to Dr. Landau. So that's in the process. He's probably reached out. So it's in the works as to hopefully it happens. I'm happy you guys are here.
Can we just narrow down like whose responsibility? Because I feel like this keeps bouncing back and forth, and so I just wanted to be clear. Like,
so I think that if we could come up with a date, like I think the hard part is we don't go to them with any dates. They don't come back with us to any dates. So I don't know if there's a day that
it's you're reaching out, and then he's going to send Anthony to Matt, and so why don't we?
Well, also I'm not positive that the entire city council is. I know that they're watching our meetings all the time, and I'm okay with that. But I feel like I don't know that everyone has been made aware that this is something we've been seeking to do. So I think that Anthony has been reaching out and communicating this, and I don't know if it is like you're saying, extending beyond to the broader council and going to the city administrator. We might just be kind of caught in a loop. So I think it is a good idea if there's communication between you and the city administrator, that the entire city council is copied on it, so that they're aware that there's a meeting that's being set up. If we could just formalize it a little bit more, because it does feel like we started talking about this as it related to the tax cap, I believe in the spring or summer, and then it's just here we are. It's February. This is
so.
Taking
Just
a
to
while.
be clear, I'm working with Anthony to set up a meeting with the entire council and board, or small groups. And how do we decide who goes?
We landed on a working group.
Something under a quorum, yeah.
Okay.
Because we felt that would be more manageable to actually make happen.
And then I thought we were going to establish, as a board, we would establish topics that we wanted to
If we hear topics
discuss.
from them that they want to discuss with us.
Yeah, same, yeah.
We would share topics.
Yeah, so that way, and then we would, of course, communicate, whoever goes, we communicate back to the broader board what was discussed, and
But we did reach out to Anthony Ruggiero before that.
originally, I think, so they did have that meeting that the 20th, was it January?
22nd, I think it was of a month.
And then
I don't know what it was. The 22nd, it was before a city council meeting. We were going to go there.
Right.
And then
Something came up.
cancellation.
there was, not on our part.
Right,
Right, but that's what I mean of just like you know.
We had a date, we had a time,
Yeah.
we had it set up, and then there was a cancellation.
Right, so I just wanted to make sure that it's, you know, is it you reaching out to Randy, or is it between Anthony, Ruggiero, and Matt now to communicate with us what they, you know, some possible dates or.
Based on the last conversation I had with Mayor Casal, he was going to have Anthony reach out to Matt to set up a small group of city council members and board members to meet.
Which it sounds like he already did start.
Right.
Right, great.
So.
But just to assist with this, are we kind of thinking like we're doing it at like 5:30-ish time before a Monday meeting on either council or board?
That's probably the best time for.
Okay. All right.
Any day works with me except for Thursday.
Yeah,
Right.
I could do it a different night as well. It doesn't have to be Monday night.
Also depends on if the city council is available too, not just us.
Any other conversation there? Do we want to talk about agenda topics?
Yeah.
So we could get that from the whole board now, so if they come back, we could share that.
That's a good idea.
So tax cap has been one that's been out there for a while. Is that still?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think understanding the mechanics of it as they perceive it, and then.
And then development, right, and
Right.
consideration of the board input, you know, Board of Education input and impact on the schools.
So that's tax cap development.
Right.
Any, is there any interest in shared services, cooperative purchasing?
Yeah, I think that's a good
Can you
one.
give a little bit more detail?
Shared services is where we kind of collaborate together and so instead of we having like 5 people on our end and 5 people on their end doing the same work, is there a way we do shared services and maybe we only need 8 people total from between the 2 of us or something like that?
Anne-Marie, do we do that already? I feel like we do have some shared services.
We do some shared services, but not people. They're not, you know, we don't share staff.
Okay, so maybe not staff, but whatever other shared services do, are there other opportunities for shared services?
We both are eligible to use some of the same bidding process. We buy our salt from the city, so there's a lot of back and forth that way. We have a relationship they use the schools, we use the fields, that kind of shared service. I know Anthony Ruggiero has gone to some of the meetings up in Poughkeepsie, and has, you know, kind of reached out to us about that. But
Do you feel that needs to be a conversation with the city?
I don't think it needs to be a conversation, but I think that some insight into the ways in which we do work together would be great to know about. So that's something that doesn't have to be.
Anne-Marie could give to us.
Right, we could, that would be great to just have, and I don't wanna put it on you during budget season. But if there's anything top of mind, that could be some role that would be helpful to know about. And I know,
And cooperative purchasing is when, you know, we're both buying the same goods, do we have better buying power if we're just buying together? And that's also something that would save us money.
Anything else? Any other items?
I mean, it'd be maybe if we, it's kind of it's a vague topic, but if we have a shared vision of what of the city, that would be useful.
I would like to get our district vision first.
Okay.
I think we need to take care of our house first and have a vision for our house before we can start sharing a vision that we don't have yet.
That's already a big topic, and I think just the tax cap development, you know, kind of participating in that conversation, so
I'm not trying to recruit more, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that they were heard and had an opportunity, that's all. So that was the reason why I was asking. Anything else? All right. All right, very good. So, I did have a board, never mind, I'll say it next time. All right.
Put it on the agenda for next meeting. Don't worry about it. Get it. I'm
You what? Yes. So the policy committee will be changed to February 28th at 8:15. 27th, I'm sorry, 27th at 8:15.
Putting a limit on my meeting again.
And the other thing Dr. Landau's asking about is, can we get a consensus to add the board meeting April 16th at 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
would someone make a motion there?
Motion we add, what's the day again?
April
16th.
Motion we add April 16th, board meeting to the agenda.
Second.
That was Anthony. Kristen, second. Comments or questions?
The time you mentioned was
7.
7.
I've already had it in mind.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll have a special board meeting April 16th at 7 p.m. here at the high school in El Giotto. What's the matter?
April 16th.
Yeah, the 7th, yeah. He's just putting it out.
Okay.
I had a question about the policy committee we just got rescheduled. Are we still gonna be talking about, homeschool?
That's on the agenda, I believe. I'll check with Georgia, but I believe it was. I asked that at the last policy committee meeting, if that was, could be talked about, what we talked about the other policy. All right.
That's at 7, Anthony?
7.
27.
All right. We're good?
Yep.
All right, the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and the item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody would like pulled?
11:02.
What part of 11:02?
The minutes?
Minutes? Okay. Anything else? All those in favor for the consent agenda 11.01?
Motion that we accept the consent agenda with the exception of 11.02.
All right. So Anthony, Meredith, second. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 7-0. I need a motion to accept 11.02.
Motion to accept 11.02.
Second.
Comments or questions? Craig?
So, correction, I'm down there as having attended the Dutchess County School Boards Association breakfast. I indicated I regretted I could not attend.
Okay.
I was glad that others did. I just wanted that not to be left in there, that I did attend when I actually did.
Great.
That's very honorable.
Kelly, you have that noted? All right, Kelly will amend that. Thank you. So does anybody, is the board okay accepting with the amendment?
We'd have to change the motion, right?
Yeah, I need a motion to accept the minutes with the amendment. stated by
Motion to accept 11.02 with the said amendment.
Second.
Meredith. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 7-0. And I'd just like to say, in the consent agenda, we adopted 11.07, the accepted donations, and there was $8,102 worth of donations, which is great. $4,000 from the Beacon Arts Community Association, $4,000 from the Anlack family to the Sean Anlack Memorial Scholarship. So, with thanks for both of them. Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Kristen, Mike. Comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 7-0. Thank you guys very much. Good job.